What's up, guys? It is Modern Craftsman Monday. And unfortunately, Tyler is not here today, so let's do it together. Monday. Okay. We were supposed to do that together.
Way better with Nick.
Either way,
Tyler.
we got George McGarry from Australia waking up early in the morning for us to join us late on the evening here Tuesday. Well, it's Tuesday
Wednesday
for us.
for him.
And Monday for the listeners. It's
Yes,
all
true.
over. It's all over the place. Either way, we dig into Australia. What they've been dealing with, obviously, with the fires going right into COVID.
Insane.
Yeah, shorts. I think John makes a reference to Chinese food and how you can't make alternates with Chinese food, like in the building industry.
Substitutions, bro.
Substitutions.
No substitution.
We changed the sales process from a process to an adventure. Either way, great podcast.
It's awesome. You guys will love it.
This episode is brought to you by Duration Moulding and Millwork. Love the durability of PVC moldings, but frustrated by the constant movement of PVC with changes in temperature? The answer is Duration Molding, Millwork, and Siding. Duration is durable like PVC, but miter and butt joints stay tight, so your craftsmanship endures. In addition to its ability to be easily sanded and filled, there's no need to be concerned about paint color with Duration. Paint that material any color you'd like with standard latex paints. Dark green, red, jet black, it doesn't matter. Bottom line,
black.
I know, or red. That's great. Well, I guess red's not that crazy. I'm thinking like car red, Ferrari red. Either way, bottom line, Duration is easy to work with, installs and finishes quickly, and looks just like wood. To learn more about Duration Polyash products, please visit their website, durationmillwork.com.
I've been practicing all week my Monday.
Oh, there you go.
So it's funny. Nick, I don't know if you got the link, but for the surveys, ton of surveys, and people love the Monday.
The singing?
Like,
Absolutely.
It's like what keeps you guys totally real. Like, it's not like someone's like, doesn't need to be, Joe Rogan produced, but you guys just keep it real when it's the Mondays.
Right. And sometimes John doesn't do it.
Well, I thought it was corny, and then everyone's loving it. So we got the feedback, so I'm in.
All right.
Yeah, it's good.
George, what time is it over there?
It is 8 o'clock in the morning.
Where are you?
I'm in Sydney, Australia.
Sydney proper? Or? I'm talking like I know anything about it. I'm just...
You just Googled that.
What neighborhood?
Yeah.
What do I ask an Aussie?
So I'm in South Sydney. So about half an hour drive from the city centre.
Nice.
So yeah, pretty close. All of our work is up around the city.
Nice.
So yeah, kind of generally most of our work is kind of within half an hour of the city centre essentially.
You said you had a mix of Irish. When did you move to Australia?
10 years ago. So yeah, I am predominantly Irish, I guess. I am Irish, but I also have my Australian citizenship. So I'm a token Aussie.
Wow.
What drove you there?
Chasing work. Had a client.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, look, I'd done a bit of traveling before, and I went back to Ireland when things were booming. So I went back and I started renovating turn-of-the-century houses back in Ireland, and then everything went kaput. Everything went to the dumps, and I had itchy feet to go traveling as well. So yeah, went to Australia for a year, and I'm here 10 years later.
For some reason, I feel like when I think of Ireland, I visited there once for like 7 days. Do they have power tools there? I feel like it's like on the... It's like am I wrong? Or is it like stonework and like thatch roofs and...
Yeah. They were still carving with the stone axes.
Right?
And
yeah.
Now Ireland is pretty advanced now, mate. Look, I haven't worked there in 10 years, but no, there's some nice work going on back in Ireland now.
I feel like I had painters that were from Ireland, and they were like, I have to go home and bring supplies with me, like paint brushes, because They just didn't have the really good stuff that was over
Really?
here. Yeah, so they would like literally have a whole container full of stuff that they'd bring back and then distribute to the trades over there. That was
Yeah,
like
right.
10 years, 12 years ago when I used to. A couple guys, we had like a couple painters that were from Wales and then some from Ireland, and that was like, we got to go back. Whenever I go back and visit, there's nothing. It's just smaller shops. It's a lot smaller and more intimate.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say, even
look,
like
Ireland.
good.
Yeah, look, Ireland. I suppose a lot of the cities, like where I'm from in Cork in Ireland, Cork is is the second biggest city in Ireland, but it's really kind of got the feel of a big town. It's so like the tool shops aren't massive, and they're nothing like what you'd have in the States.
Even like seeing some of the shows, like that show I always reference, Grand Design. It's like when you see some of the stuff they build over there, it's just it's not that old of a show.
No
it's
power
like,
tools.
They definitely have power tools, but it does seem to be.
It's all corded. They're back like 10 years.
It's like there seems to be a delay, or it's almost like it's a little bit more rough and tough. Where it at least in Boston, it's like it seems to be more refined and more over there. It's like it's like, hey, we're thinking about prefabricating this. It's like everyone prefabricates that. Like why would you do it differently? And so I've never been, but I can.
Dude, great trip. I went back when, God, was there like an airline strike way back in the day? So like we had to fly into France. Like we were supposed to fly into Shannon and then basically travel Airbnbs all the way to Dublin. And so nice. there was like a strike, so we had to fly into France and then land in Dublin and then do the trip in reverse. And I would think I was still dating my wife at the time. I tagged along for their family trip, and I was like, I'm definitely going to Ireland. So
it's a great. Yeah,
it didn't rain. It didn't rain for 7 days, dude.
Yeah,
which is like
that's
unheard of.
That's rare.
Yeah, and I absolutely loved it. I would go back in a heartbeat. I think it's to be the right age for my boys to go to really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the shoreline, Cork.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
Even though they'll never be able to kiss the Blarney Stone again. This was before COVID. He couldn't.
Did you kiss it?
Yeah, I did. I know. Everyone
good
pees
man.
on it.
Yeah.
Everyone pees on it. That's what they tell you afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah. Too late.
I'm way more interested in Australia, and I think that's just because I'm obsessed with the architecture down there.
No.
No, but they're dealing with COVID again, right?
Straight from the fires into COVID.
Dude, but that fire was crazy.
Oh, it was really bad.
The satellite images
really
were like, where do you guys go?
Yeah.
Was there a discussion of that? Like, honey, what do? Do we just get in a puddle? Like, how's this going to work?
Yeah, look, I mean, the south coast of, like, an hour south of where we are, it was, really, really bad. And there were lots of people trapped. Lots of people had to go down to the beach and, waited out on the beach. Some people were going out on boats off because they're literally coming onto the beach,
Wow.
So it was pretty crazy. Luckily, we weren't down there. We were in Sydney. I was actually on holidays away from Australia. We went to Vietnam. And so, pretty crazy. Yeah, pretty crazy.
That's insane.
So you guys
how much wildlife was. We have a delay today, huh?
Do we? Maybe. I think I like just keep interrupting people.
Well, no one gets us. They always go, "Oh, you guys interrupt." It's like we're trying to gauge each other through a video screen, and it doesn't always work. But I forget, what's the wildlife count that you guys lost? Like percentage-wise, wasn't it like 80% of like?
Yeah, I don't know what they were talking about. There was like, I don't know, there was millions.
Yeah,
wow. It was millions insane. Of animals, and crazy. So the koalas are now in danger, apparently. So they're on the endangered species list, apparently. So, which is a crazy thought for Australia, I think. That iconic animal. So I don't know. Pretty nuts.
I think kangaroos, don't you? What?
Yeah. Kangaroos, yeah, absolutely. They were fine. They ran. Koalas are slow.
This is exactly what you thought you were talking about for the podcast, right?
Animals.
We just break it in.
So you said right after the fires, you went right into COVID, but you guys dealt with COVID fairly well. Like you guys shut down and made it through. But Are you dealing with a second wave right now?
In Sydney, no. In Melbourne, they've shut down completely again. So I think for the past 4 or 6 weeks, they've been completely shut down.
Right.
That's been really hard. Like, from a trade and building perspective, I chat to a lot of guys down there, and they're hurting because it's really restricted. You're only allowed a certain number of people on site. You're not allowed to work on people's houses if they're living there. So those jobs are gone. And the big sites, I think you're only allowed to have a third of your usual staffing on the big building sites.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's pretty hard for the whole state of Victoria. We're up in New South Wales, which is Sydney, and we've gone all right. I mean, we're kind of around 12 cases a day, which is very low. When compared to America, obviously it's a very low number, but I think they've managed it pretty well in Australia.
I think you just took a shot at America.
Oh yeah.
It's not American numbers.
Rightfully so.
Whoops. Yeah. Look, I mean, we're pretty low. They've dealt with it pretty well.
That's where you are, but in Melbourne is worse. Are they spiking, or are they just being more strict?
No, they had a spike. Yeah, absolutely.
Like what was a spike to you guys? Sorry.
Spike. I think they were up around the 300 cases a day down there, which was big, which was a really large number for Australia. So they've now shut the borders. The borders have been shut between the different states in Australia now for quite a while. So you can't travel from Melbourne up to Sydney. That's not possible. They've completely shut down the whole state there. Yeah. So I think we're going pretty well up in New South Wales, up in Sydney. So yeah, hopefully it stays that way.
Are you worried?
Not really. No, not really at the moment. I mean, look, obviously when everything hit, anxiety levels were through the roof because nobody knew what was going on. Everything was up in the air. So yeah, I mean, look, after that kind of initial few weeks, the anxiety levels slowly kind of dropped off a bit, and like the amount of inquiries and stuff we've had during the lockdown has been crazy. We've had so many inquiries,
like quality ones, or just
quite a lot of quality ones, which is good.
I feel like I've talked to like Jason and Artisan and those guys, and their phones started ringing off the hook, but it was a lot of like stuff that just wasn't qualified for them to be doing. Yeah. And then it did turn. They got a bunch of houses, like more than I could have for a lifetime. But it just, it's one of those that, like, what is qualified leads for you?
Yeah. So look, I've kind of been working hard over the past kind of 4 years, I guess. My business has been up and running for 7 or 8 years. The first few years I was doing everything by myself in the office. And 3 years ago, my partner Lane, she's an accountant by trade, so she came on board and she sorted out all my paperwork, and we started to get very lucky, very, very lucky. So yeah, she came on board, and we started getting procedures in place. So now every lead that we get has to fill a project inquiry form, which is on our website. So I direct them to our website. They fill in the form. We've got a whole heap of questions on there. One of them being, what's your budget? Or what budget are you hoping to work with?
That's a good way.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we very rarely get pushback on that these days. It's pretty much every time an inquiry comes through, they will tell us a figure. Whether that's the actual figure or not, who knows? But it's a figure. So then that's really a big qualifying lead for me is the budget. Because as
really?
you know,
that's the qualify. But what gets you sparked? What gets you going?
Yeah. So look, I guess we're trying to move into larger projects. We're not at the stage where you the size of the build, yourself or Nick is moving into.
It's all how you hold the phone. It's if you hold the phone at the right angle, they all
huge.
look big. It's all look big. You know,
All perspective, yeah, perfect. I'll try that trick.
everyone meets me and they think I'm 7 feet tall. I'm just saying the angle works.
Yeah, look, I suppose we're moving into bigger projects, but what kind of excites us is, one, if it's a cool design, obviously, and if there's, I guess if there are drawings there, then that they're detailed drawings, and they kind of have, some interesting finishes, because we love, I suppose, detailed work and things that kind of make us think and make us scratch our heads, which is why I have no hair left. That's really kind of what gets us going. I mean, I guess if there's an inquiry that doesn't have any plans, then that's a bit different. We're kind of moving into a process where we're not quite doing design and construct. We're bringing on our design partners on board, and we're collaborating with them during the design to work on the budget, and be part of the team essentially at that early stage. So I mean, if people are on board with that, then that's a good thing for me.
I think that's always the hard thing, John. I think what you were getting at is when you read an inquiry come in, right? Like what excites you. And I think that's always hard, because it's like some people put a ton of time writing that inquiry and you get excited. Some throw a $10 million budget on something with want to build a house. That might spike your interest. Like, okay, that sounds like a great budget. Let's talk about this $10 million house.
Sounds like that is a great budget.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
You got to play it cool, John. You can't just slow. Hey, that sounds
I am
good.
the art of slow playing.
We should be able to make that work. What are we thinking?
Yeah, we'll see what we can do.
But the other side, the other side of it, I think it is very much what you get from the client, and it doesn't seem consistent, at least on my end, where it's like everyone that fills out a ton of information is always a good lead, or what information they're putting in. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that some of these people are filling this in thinking that they're not going to hear back. So they're just kind of, hey, I'm going to ping them, see if they get back to me. And it's usually that first phone call where it's like if they check off, I prefer to be contacted by phone than email, then I'm going to hop on the phone, and then that's usually when the interest spikes.
I always like the ones that like, hey, I've been stalking you for years.
Oh yeah, those are always
one's always like,
that's a bird in hand.
Yeah, but it's like, all right, come on, be something fun. Don't be like a shed. Like, it's like, come on.
I've been following you for years, and I don't know if this is the right fit, but I'd love to see if you'd help me replace my porch railings.
And then the next thing is like, and when? Like, don't beat them all.
Yeah.
Though. Like, it's every time it's when it get excited. But I mean, I think I always want a project that has not a huge budget, but a realistic one. Because that's so much easier to have that conversation when, like, you just simply, I don't know about you guys, but, put the time aside, put, start time and all this other, but just having, like, if they put square footage in, or if they list off what the scope is, and honestly, as I'm reading, I'm tallying it in my head before I get to my budget, filled out, and it's just like, all right, they're looking at 700,000, and then you get down there and it lines up. You're like, we can dance. We can at least have a conversation. Otherwise, it's like right now, I actually text people and go, hey, my other builder. I sound like Matt Rising, builder buddies in the area. I'm like, hey, you do renos. Do you want this in this area? Is this something you jive with? And I literally just forward them the contact and go, hey, feel free to have at it. And I don't want anything in return. Just like, I just want to make sure that one of the hardest things I have to deal with in my head is when you don't think it's a good lead for you. I don't want them to be left with whatever else is out there. Right. Like, who is available right now? Because it's everyone's home now.
You feel indebted to them to do, to prevent them from having a nightmare on their hands.
Yeah, so it's like, how can I know I can't help them, but like, how can I connect them with someone that will be a good fit? And
are you following up with them, letting them know that, hey, I passed your info to my buddy James?
Sometimes, but the reality of it is, dude, there's just not enough time in the day.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would love to be. It's the same as like when you send stuff out to a bid and then you don't get that project. I also can't go back to every sub and go, hey, this didn't happen, like proactively. If
Sure.
I connect with them on job, I'll be like, it didn't shake out. But like, I would love to be able to sit back and go, hey, let me email the 27 subs I had price at and go, hey, it didn't shake out. Thank you for your time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would love to do that. Like, whenever I ask for something from an inspector or anybody, an engineer.
Why don't you?
It's timing. If you add up all those time in a day, it just doesn't add up. I would love to. I really do. That's something I want to, strive to be able to do, is that if we don't bid out a lot of stuff,
Right.
but it's more of like, I do make it a point that if I call in for an inspection and they go, hey, 10 o'clock tomorrow, I'm not just like 10 o'clock tomorrow, put in this, email so-and-so, get this set up. I'm always like, hey, totally appreciate it. Blah, blah. I do make it a point to do all that stuff. And same with text messages on a daily basis. Hey, you going to be there Saturday? Instead of just confirming it, I also say thank you. It's probably one of the, I wish my phone could tell me how many times I say thank you. Like, it's on job sites before I leave somebody, no matter what it is that we just talked about. I always I get like 4 steps away and go, forgot. Hey, dude, you're doing awesome. Thank you. It's
Right.
It's always how I leave every
The
single
micro
person.
appreciations.
Yeah, it just, but I do. That's how it should be. And it's also, I have a thing about, like, you ever on a phone call and you're in your truck and you have the off button that's on your steering wheel. Like, I'm not ready to push it. Like, I hate when you get off the phone and you're like, and it's already gone with somebody else. They're like, oh, so they've been waiting to hang up on me. They've been waiting to end this conversation. So now I'm always like, all right, see you later. Take care. And then I'm like, 3, 2, 1. Off, like, just because I want to give them a buffer. Dude, I'm so strange, right?
You are the 3 seconds that you're spending doing that. You could be sending, hey, it didn't shake out to the.
No, if I'm driving, I don't want someone to be like, because I've had those conversations where people are busy and then I'm like, all right, take it, and then it's already, I'm like, I'm finishing the goodbye, and they've hit the button because there's no delay.
I got a landscaper I've been working with, and I swear. He must have that like his finger on it the whole time.
Right.
He's like, all right, yeah, cool, thanks. And it doesn't even like I don't even hear the S on the end of thanks. And I'm like, did he just? He just.
But do you feel appreciated at that point? But you think about it, right? It stays with you.
Yeah, it does. Like yeah. I think it does.
See what I'm saying?
It is like a negative thought. Like I appreciate how busy he is, and I know he's doing something for me. So it's like I get it. He's busy. He's like,
but dude,
hey, you get the loom coming? All right, cool, thanks.
But
I'm
whatever
like,
you just talked about is now tarnished by the quick off.
I think that's a good point.
Try get off a phone call with someone from Cork. They're bye. Good luck.
So in that case, I'll probably hang up. But I feel like the biggest thing is it's usually how people always complain about other people and how they're treated. Mm-hmm. It's really relaying how you want to be treated.
Right.
Like, and then
that's
pushing
why I
that
think
off.
I understand the time of the day, but I think that's why, and I know you want to. But I think that would go a long way when, you do walk away, or like you don't get a job or something doesn't shake out. It's like, I just talked about this contract that we just lost. Or not lost, but they canceled it. And it's like I called every person that was, involved. The guys that were supposed to be there the next day, obviously. And then everyone down.
I took those guys.
I know. Thank you.
I find, though, like by the time that... Let's say you get a load of guys to bid on a job, and then by the time you find out that it's yours or it's not, let's say you haven't won the job, that could be 2 months down the road. It could be 3 months down the road. I just find that they bid it so long ago that it's almost kind of out of my mind. I'm dealing with the next thing already.
Sure.
It's a bad. Sometimes I do write to them, but it's just that time of the day
I
that you talk about.
In the past, I've just done like a BCC email, just like email everyone.
What's the point then?
Just so they know.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I'm gonna get a text saying, "Hey, how's this job shaking out?" Huh?
Yeah. No, but I feel like that's also usually trades that we haven't used in the past. Like most of the guys, like I'll see most of the framers, mostly everybody on one of our sites somewhere that I'll be able to update them. So it's only like the bid we just put in.
Yeah. That
and
makes
it's
sense.
there's a couple people that were preferred vendors that were on the bid sheet, and I was like, all right, I'll use them. So those are the people that I'm really targeting right now that I should circle back with to be like, hey, boom, I don't know where we're at with that yet.
Right.
Whether it's a window manufacturer I don't normally use or whatever. I do want to do that because that is our first step in that relationship. Is that you're setting the tone.
Yeah, they're the guys that you actually do want to work with someday,
Yes.
but you may not have won that job. Yeah,
Right.
and you want to stay in the good books and have a good relationship.
Because they're keeping track that like, all right, I bid one with them. Hey, I bid 2 for you last year. What's the deal?
Yeah.
I'm not doing a third. Like,
Yeah.
you also, and I usually don't bid a lot of stuff because we usually tell a lot of clients that it's not going to be that accurate. Everyone's slammed right now. Everyone that's good is slammed. So for them to take time and put this proposal together, either we have to have this project or it's going to be ballparks. Because if I'm on the other end, literally everything I do is basically how I would want to do it. I'm like, dude, don't give me anything super heavy. Just kind of dig into it, look over it, give me a ballpark. That's what we're going to put in. And if it turns into something, then I want you to kind of get out of the cliff notes and dive into all the chapters of the book. But
Nick, I know you do a lot of, or most of your work is cost plus. Johnny, most of your work is cost plus as well, isn't it?
Well, it's tough because that's what we're pushing towards. But when we do a spec, it's a bag of money. It's a fixed fee, so you got to kind of back into it. And that's as Jeff Sweener said back in the day. He's made zero money, and I'm pretty much in par with that on the specs. I mean, they've gotten us great projects, but we're going to be more strategic partners with it. And I know we've gotten a lot of questions on that through DMs and honestly the survey is how do these investment things work. And if I said anything about it, if I couldn't do it in the beginning, Nick, we've talked about it quite a bit, is that the better model for me to be doing it is to be an equity partner in the deal. Meaning I would take no money throughout the build of that and then split the profit at the end, which means I'm at risk, which I couldn't do for the first 2 years. Just we in general, just because I wanted guaranteed money. Right. I wanted to make sure I could pay my bills. I did not want to worry about payroll. I did not want to be a slave to payroll. So it was like, all right, we'll pick up 2 of these, 3 of these. But hindsight, looking back, which is what I've been doing a lot of lately, is which I do all the time. Who am I kidding? It wasn't just happening yesterday. Oh, let me look back. It's that.
John, what are you up to? Just looking back.
Yeah. But for the record, that's how I talk in my head all the time. There's like 7 different conversations happening. And I'm like, who's yelling at me the loudest? I'm like, oh, it's you. But no, I think it stunted our growth. Yeah. The way we did it.
Because it have stunted your growth.
Yeah. I think it prevented us from, we left a lot of money on the table that if we had kind of pushed our way into renovations and custom stuff more, and we just didn't know if that market was there for us starting out. We should have assumed that. And I think, Nick, this is how I think of you quite a bit, is like, I'm just going to assume that market's mine until otherwise told. Right. And I love that. There was something that was very hesitant about, and everyone thinks I'm arrogant on the podcast and I'm very forthcoming and straightforward. When it came to the business, it was like, let me sit in my comfort zone and just steadily just, hover and just roll where there's no ups and downs. And we did that. And I look back and we made some, we're finally off the books for everything that we made like the first day when we left the company. It was like, hey, we have no job tomorrow. We're in rental cars. And it was like, all right, what do we do? So we made deals that they weren't perfect. Like, the big one we did was a management fee for 1 year, but we did it for a year and a half, whatever it took as the design changed. I kept my word because I thought that was more important no matter what happened. So the next year and change I did for free management wise. And we didn't do any overhead and profit on it, but that job's gotten us a bunch of work. Like, so it's
for like, the portfolio, I guess.
Yeah. But on the hindsight, I look back and go, the portfolio is great. It got us to work. But if I could have hired 1 or 2 more PMs or APMs or a superintendent, our growth, we would have been a year ahead of time where we're at right now. Because, I'm not saying I don't want to work. I'm going to work a ton. The problem is that I'm literally in my business. Nick was able to be in the business and then somehow shake his way out of it. Like, it was like, oh, everyone complains about being on the tools. Yeah, I'm on the tools. Nick went from being on the tools to not even being on the job. And it's like he's just now, 1,000 feet out, like just dialing in new work and dialing in architects and relationships. And it's like, We haven't done that. And it's, we joke around.
I appreciate you pumping me up, but I'm not as cool as a cucumber about that whole situation.
No, I know, but I just looking at the 1,000-foot view, if you look at, you track your timeline, and it's taking a couple of these projects that are higher profile for us to figure out, hey, you know what? If I'm on the ground, boots on the ground, dialing this stuff in because we took on a job that's organically working, that's what we've been doing for years, and that's the kind of lane we were in, then it prevents me from delegating that to someone else that doesn't have the imagination. I'm not saying none of our guys are skilled. It's imagination. It's
right.
like we just had this. I was on vacation last week, and the client, we sanded the floors, and they're like, yeah, we're just going to keep the floors the way they are. And I got guys there, I got bodies there, I got designers there, everyone's there, and I'm just like, I had to drive up, and an hour and a half, my family wasn't even up yet, just drove there. I'm like, all right, I'm going to show up. My kid texted me at 10. Hunter's like, where are you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm on my way back from the job site. Hold on. But it was like, here's a funny thing is that, to tell the story and that's it, is so the floor got sanded. It's 5,000 square foot house. It had a dark gray stain on it the whole time, since the minute they bought it to whatever. Now it gets sanded. This is new to them. We didn't change the process. They're not second guessing the original choice that we made very early on, that a lot of things hinged on this decision for the floor, meaning the reclaimed, the countertops, the fabrics, the wallpaper, all these things are playing off of that. So now they see the floor, let's go natural. And I'm like it's a funny thing is like, you have to walk them through it and understand why their approach is that way. Like, hey, and at one point I'm just like, this is just new to you. It's brighter and everything, but it's just new to you. It shouldn't be. Once the carpet goes down, the floors are tough because it's a massive amount of square footage when you think about it. Like when you paint walls, it's a lot, but floor is like the second highest square footage in the house.
Right.
That will add a tone, feel, and everything. And and we walked through the whole thing, and we had Will there as well, and from Premier, was it Premier?
Yeah.
Premier, right? Yeah.
Premier.
And no one could shake off that, the new look. We had, I did post a story of it. There's like, we did 10 more samples. Mm-hmm. And it's like, in my heart, I was like, I know what we're doing. It was staying with the original. Like, and then I had that was like Wednesday. We were still sanding everything. So we had a little bit of time. And then I texted the client and said, hey, I'm going to swing by on Saturday on my way back from the Cape. If you're around, let's walk it. Let's figure it out, blah, blah. And he's like, because we got one picked. And I'm like, all right, let's just review it, And we reviewed it, and it was like a dark sample and a natural sample. And I'm like, these is like reading it going, they don't know where to be. Like
right.
It should have been two very similar colors or stains. So then I'm like, all right, let's walk through this. What are you getting at? What's the missus think? All these things. And it really shook out to this crazy 2-hour conversation. And at the end of it, he's just like, we did this crazy backsplash with the reclaimed wood in it and, marble. And he goes, I would just be happy if it matched that. And I grabbed the original sample that we did 4.5 months ago, and I held it up, and it matches 100%. And he's like, let's do it. And he goes, I trust you. And I'm like, oh my God, we just went around the world and back. But okay, so how do I put a PM on that? That was that long story.
Yeah.
How do I leave a PM to that decision with the designer, with the floor guy, basically bringing everybody in that should have a voice in that decision?
We talk about that a lot. It's hard, and that's why you and Benny own the company. You guys are the vision. It's going to take years for anyone to catch up. It's just the inevitable part of building a business, and especially one that drives on creativity, passion, and finesse in what we do. George,
but how do you stay in your lane though? Like,
I don't know
Nick,
if
you're doing a lot of designers and architects and all that stuff, and it's like, so if they just said, "Hey, let's just change it," like we did that underground sport court years ago, and we interviewed and we had a landscape architect there, and he's just like, "Why would you do this wall?" And that's what the client asked him. He goes, "We can change it." The client fired him on the spot because he had designed something, and he didn't back up his design.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I put this wall in because he's like, I'll change it. It's like that. I learned something that exact moment.
Right.
It's like, if you're going to draw something, You should back it up, and then so they understand where you're coming from, not just pivot.
There's that. I always forget the story, and I think either way, it was a famous situation where they designed this like restaurant, I think, and it had this hanging window detail that when the light came in, it like shimmered throughout the whole place, and no one ever considered it, and everyone thought it was ugly. The architect showed up and walked in and looked at it and was like, "It's magnificent," and everyone's like, "It is. They do that. It's great."
But architects and designers do that potion thing where they come in, this is beautiful. Like they have it set in their head.
But the point is, it's like he backed up his decision. He's backing up his decision. That's what you're getting at. It's like the guy.
I guess as a PM, because there's a fine line where it's like it isn't my house, But like when I tell clients that I live vicariously through this design and through this build.
Yeah, but they hired you because of this. George has something to say.
Good.
What involvement did the interior designer have on that?
I mean,
like with the floor color, had they spec'd the color as part of their specs on the project, or what?
Yeah, I mean, it was the original. So we walked the house before they bought it, and it was gray. Yeah. And I said, hey, if you're gonna do something, let's do this fume process. Yeah. And they were like, done. So that was like the sample that was in the designer's hands for the entire reno. So, and then she was caught off guard. Like the first meeting, we were all kind of taken back. Like I walked in, no one thought I was going to be there. Walked in, he's like, we're going natural. And I was like, whoa. I was like, I wish I had a mask on so no one could read my reaction. It was just like, okay, walk me through how this is coming about. And it's, yeah, so the designer, I mean, so here's the thing is, this is what I'm saying is that, to Nick's point, I get it. That's why they hire us, and that's why we're in it. But when you get a PM, there's a certain amount of, I don't want to say authority that they think that they have to be able to step in and go, hey, no, just go with the original. And it's how you say that. I didn't say that to the client. I just worked through all the options. That I didn't put a timeline on it going, it's going to be a day. It's going to be 24 hours. It could have been 10 minutes. It could have been 10 days. But that decision, out of all decisions in the house, it's something that's important enough to be able to delay a project and not push them into a stressful point to go, hey, you're now pushing the project back 10 days. Like I could do that, and I get it. It's like I think they already know that. You get me? Like when he said to me at one point, he goes, "We don't have, if we do this, we save 5 days." It's like we don't do products for that. Like. Yeah. Yeah. What do you mean? What, like, you're going to do all this, you're going to spend X amount of dollars and then go, well, why'd you pick that stain? Well, because I want to save 4 days.
Right.
Like, that's not the answer. It's like, this is how everything kicks off. And it was, honestly, it was just going down that road because they had never gotten to this point in a project before. And I just, in my head, going through that, you can't put that in a process. Nick, when we're talking about owning a company and how do you delegate this and how do you give someone the cliff notes, it's you could write that down and someone could read it and go, I don't get it. Yeah. What do you mean?
It's something I struggle with all the time. Like, I know you talked about, having enough time in the day to reply to subcontractors. I find just getting enough time to deal with everything when you're trying to be that creative in the process. So the designer has drawn something and provided a concept, and then you're trying to make it happen. So you're trying to blend your building / carpentry skills with the design to make that design come true. I find it hard to remove myself from that process, and it just eats up so much of my time. I enjoy it, but it just eats up a huge amount of my time, which takes away from me growing the company, So I think moving, that's something I struggle with all the time. Just
so what do you want to be doing though? Like, what would you prefer to be doing?
Yeah, I would love to be getting involved with those details, and that's it. That would be amazing. But obviously there's a million other things that need to be dealt with at the same time. So look, I kind of know the answer to it, which is, put on a PM or a manager or whatever it is, but yeah,
or is it the other end of it is, do you find a different designer or architect that is more not going to solve everything, but more aligned with what your design idea? Like we all have our own little signatures, you know, and do you align with certain architects that or designers like Nikki from Acquire? She we finish each other's sentences. So it's like there's like when I texted her and said, hey, by the way, worked it out on Saturday, we're back to the original stain color, and she responded, don't know whether to cry or to laugh, but that's awesome that we're back in the same, like you get me, it's a team, like tag you're it, go for it, and I have her back. It's not like, well, you know, the designer wants this, I'm thinking this, and you're trying to get some points.
Right.
It's more of like this. Yeah, no, but people trust me, you know, I've been around
sure there
jobs.
Is a lot of that. Yeah.
And it's same and goes the other way. But I think my goal over the next year or so is to align with those architects and designers, which I feel like will take it from maybe an 80% creative scenario to more of like only 30% needs to be creative, and I need to vet that out. So if I put a PM on that doesn't have the experience that will, you know, step up with that authority and walk a client through that, and that's like, so I know my guys listen to this. I don't want them to listen to like, well, what do you know, I don't have the experience. And like John's been doing it for 12 years. By every right, he has that. It's just a little bit more experience with this level and working through it with a client. And I think that now if I do that with an architect and have John do it, I only have to make up 10% of that creativeness. And that gives me the ability to then pull back a little bit more comfortably, where I'm not waking up at 2 a.m. on a Saturday going, is it Monday? And where did I forget? Where did I put those drawings? I was there on Saturday. It was raining. I was underneath the porch. No, I was on Nick's pointing at his roll of plans I made fun of earlier. No, when the structurals get dropped, they get
wine
dropped
rack.
with the new set of drawings that are in a plastic bag. And I reviewed them on Saturday. And I'm like, I remember I woke up at like 2 a.m. and I'm like, you had them. And the client walked up. Where'd you put them? Like, because that's going to happen Monday morning when the framers get there. And I was like, I don't know where. They could be anywhere in the house. Like, so that's where my head was. Yeah, moving on.
George, going back to, you asked the question about cost plus. So how are you guys pricing your projects?
Look, I've always done cost plus since I started the company. But
There
was a reason you asked that, though. Like what?
There is a reason. Look, what I find in Australia now that we're trying to move into larger projects. If the client is getting bank finance, the banks here actually make the client have a fixed price cost. Mm-hmm. They won't accept cost plus. So that's why we're actually we're being forced to start pricing some jobs as fixed price, mm-hmm. Which in one manner kind of scares me, and in the other I don't like, because I feel it takes away some of our ability to be kind of just creative on the fly.
Sure.
I feel anyway. I could be wrong, but
100%.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why does it scare you though?
It scares me because from my experience on working with old houses, like, we don't do many new builds. Mm-hmm. It's always working with an old house and the inherent issues that they have. The things you pull out a wall and there's, some cowboy has done some horrific work, right, 50 years ago behind there.
Dude, that's like fucking Christmas.
Yeah.
Right?
Doing
demos like wrapping paper and Christmas.
Yeah.
You look forward to that. You're like, all right, how am I getting in here? What am I going to find?
Oh, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, but then how am I going to bill for this?
No, but that's the thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Right.
So like if you're doing a fixed price, look, obviously there's an element of risk there on some of that stuff. Obviously, some people feel comfortable, doing fixed prices, and they do variations left, right, and center, which
or allowances on stuff that could be
allowances. Yeah, that's right. I just find it kind of locks you into stuff a bit more, I think, anyway, with the fixed price. I just like the cost plus of, right, you find something and you can kind of act on it immediately and kind of come up with a few different scenarios. I don't know. That's my feeling on it.
I think, cost plus in general, I think a lot of times gets a bad rep because people don't do it correctly. And what I mean by that is 100%. That they're not communicating when things, are trending off track, where it just gets to the end. It's like, no, you signed a contract to pay cost plus. Here's the cost. It's like, well, how did you end up 10% over? Well, this and that and this, and it's, I think it all comes down to, I say this all the time, it's transparent communication. And if you can work with the client and make sure that they understand that this is why we're going to do cost plus. We're going to work on cost plus because this is a renovation. We're going to run into things, but we also want some creative freedom when we approach a situation and we have an opportunity to make something better. But hear me out. Let me walk you through that and make sure that you understand, what that cost implication is. I'm not going to just say, hey, this is really creative and this would be really funky and cool. Are you okay with it? And then charge you on the back end of it, communicating that's what makes cost plus so difficult, because it is more work. It's more financial tracking and job cost tracking. And there's a lot of, we'll call it backup that goes into it. But, John, you shook your head where, doing fixed costs oftentimes takes the creativity out of it. And that's right. But doing a fixed cost, you also, you need a solid set of drawings.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
I think the whole thing turns into a process at that point. And that's why it's not that appealing to me, because it's like all my subs, as soon as you want to make that change, they go, well, I priced it this way. And it's like, I get it, it's the business, but there's something more reality of it, instead of it being this kind of organic process to where it's like, well, I'm not doing this, I get that, and then I got to look for deductions where, hey, did you do all this? It becomes more of this, fine pen
checking
to paper thing. Yeah. And it's a bummer that way, where most of the time they're like, I'll throw that in, but then it's like, oh, it's a change order. And then you're doing internal change orders, and you're doing, I'm with you. It's way more fun when it's that. Plus, I've always said it, I tell clients, I think we get our best prices from subs when it's a live product, meaning you've already inked the deal, and now they're going to take it serious. Right. When you send out drawings, and like you said before, you don't see something for 4 or 5 months. Look at lumber prices. They've gone through the roof. Like, if I had a fixed price on that and I had that contract signed, and maybe I didn't have the jargon in there that said, hey, this is only good for 6 months, even 6 months, it's changed like crazy. Right. So, So if I had a fixed fee, either I have to have a legit conversation with that client and go, hey, that's, the numbers are crazy. Like, we have to, this is, it's a standard where, hey, I can't help it, the number has to go up. Or you leave it alone, and now you have to take it from somewhere else. It's not coming from, out of your pocket. You can say it is, but reality is you're going to pull it from the electrician. You're going to pull it from the plasterer, anyone you think you can squeeze. And no one wants to run a business like that.
Well, I mean, like a fixed price, let's take a figure. Let's say you're doing, I don't know, a $500,000 job. Are you going to price that 100% accurately? You're not. You're either going to, realistically, you're going to overprice it or underprice it. I don't think the chances of you pricing that bang on is not the reality. So either the client is, either you're winning and laughing all the way to the bank, or you're losing money and the project is suffering for it,
Or you build the same product over and over again. I'm thinking of people that are like, hey, I have a 10 by 20 kitchen. That's I'm just trying to give us at a certain point that it does come out of the comfort zone that, hey, these bulk numbers could just be money, bang on and hit it, where it's like, hey, it's the same amount of countertop space, it's the same this, we're keeping the walls, we're just patching it, putting new cabinets in, and all electrical stay where they are, it's new trims. I get you can do that all day, but there's a certain, like, especially with renovations, like, even if we did a cost plus or a GMP, I would make the demo and reframe an allowance, because without knowing how far and how extensive we have to go, it's foolish to even put a hard number on it, because if I did it, I'd be lying to you. Right. I don't know what's in the walls. I'm not Superman. And anyone else that says that, they're lying to you. And then let them talk to the next guy. And if they don't say it, then they're lying to you.
I mean, I know we talked earlier about, what's a quality lead. I'm sure your guys are the same, where, well, where you get a set of drawings sent to you. It might be a client or it might be an architect sends you a set of drawings, and it's 5 pages long or 3 pages long with no details. You know, it's a bathroom drawn, but there's no tiles. You don't know anything about it, and they expect a fixed price in it.
George, I got a job probably a month ago. Hey,
You guys got the same prints, huh?
what's that?
You guys got the same prints?
Yeah.
What's the address?
It's like I think it was 4 or 5 pages, floor plans, no elevations, an exterior elevation, no interior elevations, looking for a price. I'm like, are we like any scope? Like, what's, you know, is there any definite, like, no, just, you know, just looking for a ballpark. And then, so I'm like, all right, I'll give you a ballpark, like verbally. And then it's like, all right, so we're looking for like a line item budget on this. And they updated the drawings. They added, they changed some floor plans around.
So
I'm like, guys,
but did you open the door there though? By you saying
no, what?
Like the first part when you gave them a verbal, why did you?
No, I explained that the process, we can't price this. This is something that we, you know, we're happy to sign, you know, the pre-construction deal we always talk about, work with the architect and develop the scope. Obviously, the scope hasn't been developed yet. Long story short, it went into, now it turned into a schedule that I found out I was bidding it. 2 other builders said that they could do it in 4 to 5 months, and I was 9 months.
You found out you were bidding it? Of course you were bidding it. Like, what was
competitively?
But my point, but my point is like, what was that? I don't even think I'd even respond to that lead. I'm not saying that.
No, because
she came across arrogant. I was just like, I would look at that and go,
"Damn it, Johnny!"
Like, why would I wouldn't
because
like,
everything.
Like, hey, we're doing this in Dorchester. You want to do this 3-decker? No, I don't want to do a 3-decker.
No, because it was a quality lead. I met with the client. She had reached out through. She actually text messaged me off of Instagram. Told me about the project. I walked the job before there was an architect involved. She got an architect involved. Started preliminary design. I talked to the architect. I'm like, yeah, send me the drawings. I'll take a look at it, and we'll start getting some pricing. He's like, all right, we already got the other 2 pricing back. I'm like, I didn't know there was anyone else involved. So I was like, all right, whatever. I'm. It's an interesting enough job. I'll look at it. I'll put together my preliminary. I do whatever. My point is, because you made a comment about you're okay. But you made a comment about like, hey, they're just lying. I end up, you know, going back and forth, and I'm like at the end of my sales process where it's like, all right, this job is no longer.
I hate that word, by the way.
Our sales.
No, think about it from a client standpoint. Did they want to be involved in a sales process?
Well, I'm talking to a client. All right. I'm on the end of my adventure. Okay. I'm at the end of my adventure here, and I'm deciding that I'm going to leave the forest. But does that paint a pretty picture?
I love you for that. That was way better.
But the other, she's like, yeah, you know what, you're saying it's going to be an 8 to 9 month project. I'm like, okay, we're in fall. It's a full renovation. We're going to hit Christmas and winter time in the city. Okay, yeah. I mean, 8 to 9 months, that's realistic. The other guys are 4 to 5 months, both of them. I'm like, all in my head, I'm like, they're lying. Number one, there's no scope.
Just high five and be like, right, dude, awesome. I got, but right. Like, I wouldn't, going back to the thing, I wouldn't even talk to them unless it was a referral. Like if someone I'd have to know would have had to have referred me to that for me to even go to that. I'm not trying to be, it's just going back to the time thing. Like we have, like we talked about the other day where you're like, I want to be booked for 2 years. It's like, that was an accurate statement to a point where like we have a lot of the stuff we've been dealing with and working with the client for over a year with designs, all that stuff. And then you start construction. I don't need anything new. I don't want anything new. So like I told you a couple weeks ago, like we haven't looked at anything new in 6 months. Because like even if it came to me, I couldn't do it. I couldn't touch it, and I don't want to have that on my conscience. That like, oh, I looked at it, now I need to get them a number, so we've done that. I just looked at a house 2 weeks ago, week and a half, before my vacation, and I was like, it was a referral. I was like, all right, I'll go take a look at it. Chestnut Hill, great area. Drive over there, and then they don't have any drawings. I'm like, hey, if you guys want to jump into this, you should. You know, it's a lot like a Cohasset scope. And I'm like, but I can't give you any pricing because there's no details. So I'd have to get in. We brought in Ethan to do an as-built. That gives me square footage, just gives me a jumping off point to give you, throw beach balls and stuff at it. in volleyball size budgets. And then they called me Monday, and they're like, because Ethan went in last week. I don't have the as built yet. They're like, so we want to start demo Friday. And I'm like, we don't even have a number together. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I walked it, made a list.
People just want to see work happening.
Oh my God. Like, they're like, we're in a rental. We closed Monday. We want to just start demo Friday. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And again, a lot of going back to the cost plus scenario, I find a lot of cost plus stuff works better because it's not so much architecture and that stuff. It's more design driven, meaning, hey, create this room. And the only way to do that construction is you have two options. You design that room, you then stop everything, price that room, and then approve it, and then start construction. And that could take a month and a half to do. And then if you do that over multiple rooms, your schedule's out of whack. So you put budget at risk in order to keep things moving at a good pace, knowing that it's an open book, meaning the subs that you have and that you've been working with are all good priced people that, you're not going to get gouged. And it's that trust thing. Yeah. And then as the design takes shape, you price it. And if anything starts going off reservation, you have to raise your hand, meaning like, hey, steel or whatever is $30,000 instead of what it was supposed to be, or glass and glazing went from 12,000 we had in the, ballpark to 40, so I find that a lot of things happen with us is that design comes first, then it's timing, and then budget, meaning as long as that client's comfortable with that process. Otherwise, we'd have to stop, price it since we've got the design that took shape, and then aggressively hit it. It's like we just did it with the pool, hardscape, and before you know it, we're at $1 million for hardscape and pool. Like, how'd you get there? And it's like, but we've done that over 2.5 weeks.
Right.
So now it's like, do we want to value engineer that? So I don't know. Cost plus is tough, but I think it's the only way to operate. But you have to do the backup,
Absolutely, yeah. It's a huge amount of paperwork, but yeah. I mean,
Good.
Yeah, we do. We're going to ask what our process is.
He was going to ask what your margin is.
No, you're.
So
I was going to ask your process, but I think that.
Yeah.
I was going to get to the margin, John. Jeez.
So yeah, look, I mean, yeah, we do. We actually bill every week. So we compile. So every Tuesday we send our invoices out.
God bless
for the
your
work
wife.
that's done. Yeah, legend. Yeah.
Seriously. You know what?
Yeah.
Go grab her. You can leave. Let's dig in at what she's got going on.
Yeah, so like every Monday, our billing week is Monday to Sunday. So we compile everything, all the invoices that come through, all our subbies, invoices, material costs, everything gets compiled, added to the invoice and sent out on a Tuesday, basically. And then I'll do a budget report every 3 weeks with the client, kind of a detailed budget report. I'll track it in-house. I'll kind of give it a look over every week myself, just kind of a glance over to make sure it's kind of staying on track and where I think it should be. But then every 3 weeks, I sit down with the client to do the budget report, just so we can have, big enough milestones to track it against accurately.
Can I ask I'm gonna ask it anyway. Why 3 weeks and not every month? I feel like every month would be easier to remember. It's like, on the 5th of every month.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know. Look, some clients, I don't know. I've just found it. Some clients have kind of pushed back from a month.
Okay.
Some people have said, "Oh, can we do it every 2 weeks?" And I've said, "Well, 2 weeks is too regular, so let's meet halfway and do 3 weeks." I think that's how I fell into it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Makes it difficult to track, though. You're right.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm like, how would I set a calendar reminder that I need to send out a budget update?
I've got a custom app.
There you go. So you're billing every week. Is that let's go back to like the very beginning. Let's dig into the financial a little bit, right?
How's that not annoy clients?
Dude, I've talked to a few builders that have done that.
The invoice?
It's every week.
Yeah, like every week.
Yeah. They actually like it.
When do you send out invoices?
Tuesday.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
Not Friday.
I heard you
No.
talking about it last week as well.
That's my point. I want to know how many people have changed up when they invoice.
It's like, hey guys, are we sending them out on Friday? Yeah, John said we have to change that now.
Let's stop that because dude,
We're
think
ruining
about it.
people's weekend, guys.
Yeah.
Call me crazy.
No, I mean it's true. But all right, so you're fine. No, you're good. You're on fire today, John.
I missed last week, dude.
I know.
I think clients like it because they're not paying out as huge as, like, you know yourself, you can rack up pretty big sums in a week.
Mm-hmm.
If you're, obviously they're pretty big figures.
It's like more palatable and easy to understand.
Yeah,
It's like, oh,
exactly,
there's four invoices this week. Okay.
And I can find then, I just find it easier to track then as well. Personally, I find it easier to track. I can see it week to week, how we're tracking then.
So on what's your average size project?
Yeah, probably at the moment, our average size project would probably be around the 400,000 or 500,000. So basically, we do projects anywhere between. Our main focus is projects anywhere between probably 300 and 1.2. I know it's a big range, but generally we like to have kind of two bigger projects at any one time, and they tend to be, ideally up around the kind of 800,000-900,000 mark. So we have two of them, and then we have smaller projects, like we might do an apartment renovation for, I don't know, 200,000 or 300,000. You know what I mean? Ticking along in the background as well.
So just for
600,000. Good. I was
well,
gonna say,
just for reference, on $1 million Australian dollars is like 737. Oh, dinner's here. $737,000 in US. Just for the conversational sake. So it's close.
I had something teed up. So is that the same as like American inseam versus Australian inseam? Because I feel like if I wear a 10-inch inseam on my shorts here, that's like a 3 inseam over there. Am I wrong? Like, you guys wear some short ass shorts in Aussie.
They're just ahead of the curve. Short shorts are in.
I brought
dude.
my long shorts from Ireland, mate. So I had to import them specially.
Sorry, I actually had that written down. No, I didn't.
All right, so so your average size job, anywhere, let's call it anywhere from 300 to, a little over $1 million.
Yeah.
So you're billing on a weekly basis to keep track of it, to keep a pulse on things. It's easier to track. Are you paying your subbies weekly?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, so we pay our subbies weekly, and we pay our own employees weekly as well.
So you're basically staying, right on top of it. What about what are you taking as a deposit for a project?
Yeah. So in Australia, you are only legally allowed to take a certain deposit. So the maximum deposit we can take is 10%.
Gotcha.
And that's what we take. Now, I'm not too sure exactly how it works in America, but over here, for us to do a project, we have to purchase an insurance on the client's behalf called home warranty insurance. Now, what that covers is it covers the client if the builder disappears, dies, or goes bankrupt, essentially. And if there's an issue with the project, or if the project hasn't been completed, then they apply to this fund, and the fund should technically come to their.
We don't have an insurance, but we have a fund that we pay into to protect. Yeah, HIC, which protects the client. But John, he was just saying that they're only legally allowed to take a 10% deposit, and I think in the U.S. up to
Massachusetts is 1/3.
1/3, unless they're
really?
unless it's like
specialty,
specialty
like windows or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't take deposits anymore.
You don't.
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
See, this is, and you're not, and you're billing monthly.
I'm billing biweekly.
Biweekly. So you're financing a job for 2 weeks.
Well, not really, because I mean, by the time most guys don't get deposits for our projects. Just because, as if you're working for a bank, if I give a deposit and that guy bounces, they're not going to give me the money again. So ideally, once guys get going, if they want to invoice me ahead of time, they can do that, and that way we put it into the cycle. You get me? So it's usually once people start getting into the mix. So like, let's say we're doing demolition. We got a project coming up. We got framers coming in, to do some separation work between what's new and old, what we're going to touch and not touch. So we have all that coming in. All my materials are coming in for protection from my lumber supplier, so it's on a credit. So I don't have to pay that for 10 days, and then all that stuff. So the first beginning of it is us getting going, and then we invoice in 2 weeks for all those things that are happening. And I get invoices from those guys. So every week it's like, hey, I need an invoice from you at the end of this week because it's my cycle.
All right. So am I correct in thinking that you don't take a deposit, but you're billing ahead? So like 2 weeks in, you're going to bill not what you've paid to date, but what you expect to pay between
when they're done.
This cycle and the next cycle.
No, it's really, so for those first 2 weeks, meaning, let's say that project, we start prep, make safes, demo, and then rip off the back of the house for excavation. Okay. I won't have any of those invoices for 2 weeks from those guys. So at that 2 week mark, I'll ask for it, and my first invoice will go in, and I'll get paid that week. So at the end of the third week, when most of that work has been completed, so I'm billing what work has been completed. I'm not getting ahead, so good.
Yeah, you're 3 weeks. So you're 3 weeks potentially out of pocket by the time you actually get paid from the. Yeah.
But I'm rarely out of pocket. Yeah. I'm rarely out of pocket because our guys aren't. I'm not giving them an invoice ahead of time. If someone wants a deposit, then I'd have to invoice for that work. You get me? And it's the same as if the rules apply is if the worst person you're going to have is a bank to have to do pay recs with. So why not just keep that cycle? I'm a firm believer in one process. Like from what we do for specs to a renovation to a custom, it's the same process. Yeah. And we've been doing that just because deposits get lost and how you credit them back, whether it's 10% over the next whatever invoices, it gets sloppy. And I don't want it in my account. So it's like we just made a call like 6 to 8 months ago. It also, hold up, depends on who the client is. Okay? If you've been working with them for 6 months to a year in this whole process, and a lot of our clients, knock on wood, they are, sorry, it's not wood. They invoice. I mean, when we invoice, they'll wire money like that day. It's not like, hey, let me wait for a check, and we've all been told, let me move money around, and that BS. It's like, no, come on. It's so a lot of our clients, most of them, besides our investors, they're wiring money the day they get the invoice.
Right.
So it's like, all right, boom. So now it's just, let me work out the issue I have with some of our spec developments where it's like, it's not their priority. They have another business. Right. They'll get to it when they get to it. It's like, well, how am I? It's like clients tell me all the time. We had a call at a meeting today, and they were like, well, can we knuckle some of these guys down? I'm like, then I might get an answer to my phone call in 4 or 5 days. And they might show up a week late. Are you cool with all that scenario happening? Because that's what we're opening the door to if you want to save $1,000 in every line item in the budget. Because it won't be a priority. The guys we have are already cutting us great deals because it's how we work, and we by flow and volume of work that we have, we're getting a trade discount per se in air quotes. That if I knuckle them down, they'll go somewhere else because they are good. Yeah. This isn't like, hey, I did them a favor, right, and got them this painting job. Yeah. It's not how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, we take a 10% deposit after we organize the insurance, and then we credit it back over the last invoices of the project. So we actually hold that deposit during the build and deposit it back towards the end. But luckily, as I said, my partner is an accountant, so bookwork's not an issue.
That's amazing. I also like Nick, like the first thing you do is file for a building permit. Yeah. So I file that, and it goes right into invoicing. Right. Like that'll go out the next day or that night, whatever. I just forward the receipt to the bookkeeper, and then boom, it's gone. Yeah, I think
a couple of different scenarios with us is we do take a deposit, and the way we credit it back is essentially we credit back. This is going to sound more complex than it is, but essentially each invoice, we, say we're 10% complete on a project, we take 10% of the deposit and fund it towards that invoice, and then the remaining amount gets funded by the client. every month, so that by the time you get to the last percentage, you're billing. You're basically defunding the deposit account. You're basically funding each invoice with two accounts. But we bill on a monthly basis, and we're also, the good majority of what we're billing is labor. So we're paying payroll each week. So there's all of that labor, and then obviously the material and subcontractor, and we're billing our cost from the prior month, so that deposit is keeping us ahead.
Absolutely, yeah.
I've absolutely considered billing at a more frequent rate. We haven't been able to get to a process that I'm comfortable with to do that. But it's I think it's something that all of us struggle with. I mean, there's little nuances.
100 different ways of doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's little nuances with it.
It's how people have their own systems.
Right. I probably spent at least 12 months just trying to make a system work for us that wasn't reinvented every time we build.
It's 10 hours a day for 12 months. He's been drilling down on this.
Yep. Lots of hours.
I stopped everything.
Yeah.
You know what I got asked today? Casually asked, so no retainage? What happens if you just disappear? And I was like, really? That question's coming up right now? Like,
someone asked that, on one of our coffee breaks. I'm like, what happens if you stop paying? Like this is a two-way trust.
Yeah.
I believe that you're gonna pay me, and you believe I'm gonna do the work. It's not. It can't be one-sided. There's no reason for the client to have the upper hand.
It's almost asking for like a prenup.
Right.
Like, yo, we're dating.
Yeah.
Like, we're in this. Now you want it?
Right.
You want all your
Do
money?
you get asked for a retainer much?
That was the first time since we've been in business. And
we're finding it more now with the bigger jobs, with architect-driven jobs, that they want to use a specific contract that has a retainer for 12 months after the project has been completed, like 5% retainer.
Fuck.
Crazy, yeah.
Are you?
Who says yes to that?
Not me.
So let's talk about you scaling. So you've been doing the smaller projects, and you're talking about wanting to do larger projects. Because I think based on what I've seen, the projects on your website and stuff like that, I feel like you and I are we're in similar similar realm, and in the sense that we're going after larger projects as well. So I'm curious of what your process has been, or what you've been really focused on how to scale up. Have you been doing, like what John said, is taking some projects and doing them at cost in order to elevate to that next step?
We haven't. Look,
Good
one
for
of the
you.
Yeah, don't do it. I don't advise
we
it.
haven't. I couldn't bring myself to do it, to be honest. But look, one of the issues here, that one of the challenges in Australia is that that insurance that I mentioned, the home warranty insurance. So basically, when I can't just go and build a $5 million house. I have to apply to this home warranty insurance for a certain limit. So now, when I started my business, that limit might have been 500,000. That might have been the maximum size job I could do. Over the years, then you have to reapply, resubmit paperwork, financials, to prove your experience, and to prove that you have financials to back it up.
I'm giggling because imagine if Nick had to do that.
That's why I'm smiling and saying interesting.
You're lucky. You're lucky. It's an absolute punish.
Nick would have bought out the insurance company. It'd be NS Builders and Insurance.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
I think it's
you're
smart.
really lucky.
I actually think that's a smart move on their behalf. It's I do, like, obviously I'm trying to take on projects that we haven't done before, and it's kind of like when people say I have to go to college to get a job, but I need, or I forget the saying, like, I need experience for this job, but I need a job for experience.
Yeah.
And it's like the same thing. It's like, oh, you have to do a project of this
22.
stature before you're allowed to do a project of this stature.
Yeah. So, but you also have to provide financials. So I basically have to, let's say I want to be able to do whatever, 10 million worth of work a year, 5 million worth of work a year. So I have a job limit. I can only do so many jobs a year, so many open jobs at one time. So I can have, let's say, 10 renovations open on that system at one time. And
Wow.
the overall job value can be whatever my limit is. So let's say it's 10 million or 5 million, whatever it is. And I have to put a certain amount of my own money against that value, basically. So, you have skin in the game. It's
Is it like Uber? Do you get to also rate the rider? Like the clients,
no.
do they have their own stuff to make them good for this deal?
Nope.
Or is it all one-sided?
It's all one-sided. So look, I mean, the system in itself, I don't know how good a system it is from a homeowner's point of view. I have heard a few stories of it taking a long time to process. For instance, I know of someone that had a builder that went bankrupt, and they didn't have a roof on the job was half complete. They didn't have a roof on their house, and it took them a year to get that money from that fund.
I love this. I had a friend.
Well, yeah. True story.
But I think Canada has this, don't they? Didn't we have someone else on the podcast that has the same structure in place?
Maybe Jeff Harvey?
I think it's those guys. Maybe even Dakota. I think that area
I think it was Dakota,
has the same thing.
Dakota,
I think it's great.
Super
I think
strict up there.
It makes sense, but it can be frustrating as well, because you want to grow the business, and I can't grow it how I would like to grow it. I am restricted.
And that's Australia in a whole?
Yeah, Australia as a whole. Yeah.
But I also think last time we heard this, there's that whole thing to protect the homeowner, right? I'm almost positive maybe it was Harvey or whoever. At the same point, people are then also doing work that aren't licensed, that aren't under this umbrella, that also don't get inspected. So there's a whole nother kind of underground of building that's happening. I'm almost positive it was Canada, and I apologize for not getting it right, but I'm almost positive, because then there's all these horror stories. That's why Mike Holmes has all this, content, because people just get up and leave. But no one states the fact that that client wanted a screaming hot deal, and they looked past all the flags, and they were like, "Yeah, I gave them $100,000 in cash." It's like, what? Who would ever do that? Like, every time I watch that show, I want to smash my TV. But it's like, I think that. So my question to you is, what's the inspectional services like in licensing for your area? If they're this stringent on what workload is and qualifications.
Yeah. So to become a builder, you have to jump through a lot of hoops. So I'm a qualified cabinet maker, furniture maker from Ireland, and then I went on to doing carpentry. So in Australia, I got my carpentry skills recognized by the training body. I know you talked to I can't remember his name, the guy from the UK last week or the week before, where they have an apprenticeship system. Kelly? Yep. Yeah. So it's the same system here. You have an apprenticeship system here, 4 years for a standard apprenticeship. You have to do that to become a carpenter or electrician or whatever. So I got my carpentry skills recognized. It's a speeded up process where they assess you, they assess your skills, and then if you have the skills, then they will give you the accreditation.
So who's evaluating you for that? Is it like instructors?
So the government. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so it's a government training body, and I can't remember the exact process, but I had to submit a lot of paperwork. I had to do exams, and I had to do a skills test as well to prove my knowledge and my skills to get my carpentry cert in Australia. Then to become a builder after that, I had to do So to become a builder, you either have to be a qualified carpenter or bricklayer, as far as I know, or you have to do what's called a Cert 4 in building and construction, which is, I think it's a year-long, basically college course. So you have to have both of those, and then you apply for your builder's license. And to get your builder's license, you have to have references from another professional. So it can be builders, it can be engineers, architects, to apply to get your actual builder's license. So you jump through a lot of hoops.
So who's putting that school on?
Yeah, there's many people. The government training body do it. They're called TAFE. Or there's private companies as well. I did mine through Master Builders, the Master Builders Association.
It's a way better name than TAFE.
I did mine over 6 months, every weekend or every second weekend. So I think if you don't have a trade, you actually need, you need a diploma in building or something, and the Cert 4 course.
So what was the second one? You said the one that you did it through?
Master Builders Association.
The Master Builders Association. So yeah, they run their own courses, and they actually do their own training as well. They train apprentices as well. They're like
they would kill. Yeah,
they're like an industry body essentially. So they're I'm a member of the Master Builders of Australia. So you pay a yearly membership, and you get they have
too.
They're actually in the U.S. and they're partners with NHB. Yeah, they're in.
I was joking.
Yeah, right.
Nick was a master carpenter.
Can we?
Look at that look.
No one can see me.
You'll never hear the end of it.
No, I will never.
No way.
No.
Kid was like 12 and he had master carpenter on his business card, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Google
said my whole life for that.
Google said I could do it.
I'm like, I literally asked you, how'd you get that? And you were like, I just put it on my card. I was so disappointed when he told me that. I was like, did you talk to like Tommy Silva?
For the record, I did not put it on my card. The guy that designed my website put it on my card, and I asked him, I'm like, I don't know if I'm accredited for that. And he's like, I looked it up. You don't need any accreditation, so I'm just going to leave it. And we rolled.
There's the heart of the problem right there.
I know. It starts with me.
And then Norm tells us it's what like you're passionate about, and I was like, that didn't help.
Script.
Yeah. So like with the Master Builders, like you guys, they have all their contracts. So you've loads of different contracts, fixed price, cost plus, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then they have, as part of your membership, they have a legal department that you get legal advice from if you have issues. It's all part of the membership, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm just scrolling the website over here, but it has everything: advocacy, workforce development, classes. I'm surprised we haven't heard about this more, or if maybe we haven't, it's just like kind of scanned over, because it's something that I think the U.S. I think we know the U.S. lacks, is just like a formal process to becoming a builder. There's so many cowboys, to use your word, around that it's constant, especially when it's booming. It's just a constant battle against the frankly, it's just bullshit out there, where it's like, where there's for us only, like we genuinely want to put the very best product out there, and there's a price to pay and there's a premium to that, but we want to work for clients that value that, and it's like, and then we're up against the guy that is putting out bullshit, and it's just we're dealing with the repercussions of it. We've taken, I can't even tell you how many jobs we've taken over because someone started it because they were the low bidder, and then they come in and it's like they end up losing hundreds of thousands of dollars because it's like, we can't take this over. We need to redo this. Yeah. That's the process. So I mean,
that's hard. I mean, look, even with all the systems in place here, there's still cowboys out there. So I can only imagine, without those systems in place, how it must be.
I mean, it's John. We have to to become a builder, or even just, I mean, you don't even need your license to become a builder technically. There's guys but to get your builder's license, it's literally you go to an after or a night course for a couple weeks that they show you how to tab the code book and how to read the code book. They don't even show you how to read it. They show you how to tab it. And then
basically there's so many discrepancies in things that overrule other parts of the book that there could be several of the same answer.
Right.
And some of them could be wrong. And it's an art of how to navigate 700 pages of code.
And then you go take a test for 4 hours, and if you pass, you're a builder.
But you're supposed to have 3 years of active experience. But like in college, they count your last 2 years of college. I mean, I did a co-op. Yeah,
college is 1 year, and then you can just get someone else to sign off that you've worked in construction. Doesn't matter what it was.
I had plenty of guys in college that got their unrestricted supervisor's license in college, and I was like, I'm not doing it. I wanted to go get 3 years of experience on the ground and authentically sign up for it and get it, because I thought I was cheating it.
Yeah.
So is that an optional thing, the supervisor license, or the license that you talked about?
I do unrestricted because it's what 30,000 cubic.
Yeah.
Right.
It's typically what everywhere, like it's just the license that will cover residential, but you know.
Yeah.
And light commercial.
And light commercial. But it's not necessarily optional. Like you're required, like the firm that you work for is required to hold some sort of license.
You can't pull a permit without it.
Yeah, but you could. Right. Okay. But you could, like, your lead carpenter could have his CSL, and that would be fine. Or you know, there's definitely guys out there that run permits through someone else's license.
We've all done it at the beginning, you know.
I just didn't pull permits.
What's that? Yeah,
I just didn't pull a permit.
But I used to get so freaked out because someone's you're loading in lumber,
dude. You're
like, oh my gosh,
dude. I was afraid. I was afraid to pull permits because everyone told me how like horrible building inspectors were, and I mean I was young, and I remember doing it the first time, and they were like, all right, yep, you're good. Here's your permit. I'm like, that's it,
bro. We used to joke about how you'd go to like the lumber yard, and like you'd stand there and like wait till there was no one in line. I would do the same thing at the building part. It would take me like a full day to pull a permit. Yeah. I'd be like looking around. It was like trying to it was like buying cigarettes when you weren't of age. Like It was just like, I don't want anyone around. Is anyone like in Newton? I remember Newton was notorious because they had that big like almost like a bar area. So there's already intimidating because it's like 6 or 7 people behind.
Yeah, you don't want to ask a stupid question and hear someone hear you. It's like.
Yeah, so you'd like I would wait till like you'd hear all the doors close, like from like the end of the main building department, and be like, all right, I got at least 3 minutes before anyone opens those doors to get to me. And that's how I was, you know, and now I look at how I walk in places and I'm like, dude, not having confidence. It's just like, hey, let me walk in the same way I was back then and ask if I'm doing this right.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed on how I run it.
Yeah, I mean, I say that all the time. It's like they deal with, again, going back to the Cowboys, they deal with literally, you know, they're just assholes and jerks. They go in there demanding things like, give me a permit, whatever it is. It's like they deal with that all day. And John, you're absolutely right. You go in, it's like, hey, what do you need from me?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I got all your paperwork based on the website. Here's everything you need. Like, is there anything else I could do to help? Like, I want to make this process easy. And it's like, that they're way more apt. I mean, I feel like we're teaching someone how to get a permit, but it's like you're basically teaching just manners, and it's like because they don't deal with it. They deal with crap all day, and it's like it's no wonder people have so many issues with it because they just go in there thinking that they're more important than the next guy.
Well, they go in there to complain about how the process sucks. It's like it's not the building department. And that's who you want to blame because it's obviously the face of it, but it's the 25 people that came before you that tarnished it, and that you then have to I feel like we have an obligation to correct that. It's the same as when you meet a client. Most of the time at a cookout, I've been at them recently where people are bashing builders and contractors, and I'm like, all right, like I have the opportunity to shut my mouth, which doesn't happen, or I can be like, you know, maybe you're at fault here.
but they all want to commiserate over this awful situation that they all had a hand in. And they just want to blame the GC. And I rarely see the person that comes out of that group and goes, no, but I had a great GC. Like, they almost feel like they're the out person, the exception. But, you know, when we meet, we just took a job over as well, Nick. We've done a couple, like Nick's saying, you just take them over, and it sucks. But it's like, we walked in, we talked about this offline. I walked into a situation where, you know, I've seen a lot, and I'm not usually stumped, but this one totally stumped me, where it was a design build firm, and every bill went through the designer. So I was like, she was like, I don't know, you know, how much things cost. I'm like, dude, just ask for all the backup. Ask for the backup, because your attorney would ask for the same thing, so that way you can get a release of lien and you're good to go. And they're like, well, we only paid the designer. And I was like, wait a minute. How does that work? And then I tried to dig more into it, and I was like, you need to call the building inspector, because I don't know who pulled the permit with their license. And it was this kind of convoluted, whether it was planned or not, by, I feel like good guys don't know how to do bad things, but bad guys know how to do bad things really well.
Yeah.
And it's really tough when, like, yeah. And I'm standing there, and I'm like trying to walk her through it. And at one point I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know what to do here, but I would put it in writing and email the building inspector, figure out what your next steps are, and then call an attorney. Because I was like, this is not the norm. This is being done in a way to circumvent certain bylaws and stuff that would, you know, capture this. And I was like, I got nothing for you. And I'm like, and I felt really bad that I was letting them down. And, you know, a month later, we took the project over, and we're in there now doing it now. And it's like, it's a bummer, because they walk in and I'm like, my radar goes off. It's like, all right, this trim up that's unprimed and the walls are unprimed. I'm like, get me out of this house right now. Like, how is this happening? How is there's moisture that's just going to run rampant through all this trim? And who in their right mind was okay with this?
Right.
And it's like, we got to pull it all off. And I hate it really, and you know, they spent like crazy money. They spent, to put it in perspective, this is how I look at it. They spent enough money I could buy my first house with it. So it was like $324K. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, how? And it's really, and then it puts me, again, now I'm not in a business mood. I'm in this passionate, like, we're going to solve this. Like, how do we make it right? And it's like, dude, that burden's not on me either. But now I'm that's why I was like, Benny, do this. Like, take it from here, dude.
Perfect.
Yeah, and that's what we're getting into. Benny's now going to be the GM, where he gets to, you know, I can get it going and figure out this is someone we want to work with and get it, and then kick it over to Benny, and he can lock it up. And, dude, I showed up for the turnover meeting to our guys. That was it.
That's a hard one, getting into it at that stage of the project. So the walls were sheeted and everything?
Yeah, the trim was up.
Oh, my God.
And, you know, and the reason why I went to that walkthrough was like, you know, Benny's walking the guys through the scope and blah, blah. And I was there to be like, hey, guys, when you walk in, it's like the HVAC, you have to spray the registers. I want this client's been through an awful situation, okay? So they're going to be hypersensitive to things. So you need to be looking not for the norm, but for the little things, the things that this really going to separate us from everyone else. So that way, because this could turn badly on us in a heartbeat. Yeah. Like, it's like dating a girl right after they broke up with somebody that was an awful relationship. Like, don't be the rebound, okay? Like, so we're just trying to educate everybody in the situation and go, hey, for Vintage's best outcome here, we have to be layering this and understanding, over communicating, putting it all in the builder trend, doing the daily logs, trying to put as many photos in there and over communicate what's happening. And I think the first thing we found was like the electrical was, every plug was wired with the same ground or whatever. It was like one circuit through the whole house, and we're like, oh my gosh, we have to hit them with a change order to fix this.
It sucks.
The first round of it was like $11,000, and 11,000, and I was just like, Benny was telling me about it, and I was like, this is why I'm not involved. Like, do this.
George, have you done any takeovers?
I haven't. No.
Man,
I haven't. Luckily.
Wow. You're living the
You
goddamn
haven't done
dream.
anything for free, and you
Yeah.
haven't done any takeovers. You're ahead of us.
I'm sure I have done some things for free. Plenty of things for free, in fact. But yeah,
So
look,
where-
I've seen. Oh, go on.
Where are you at in your growth right now? What are you allowed to to go back to that conversation? You started talking about how you're limited to how you can grow. Where are you at?
We're up to 1.9 million now is our biggest job we can take on, which is a good result. So I've been working hard for that. We've been working hard for that. So that's our aim now, is to try get.
So what happens if a $2.1 million job comes across your desk?
Look, there is a chance we could possibly nudge it up.
You break it into phases.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Phase 1,
Yeah, there might be a way of-
1.9.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Or I do 200 grand for free.
Oh, no, that's a no bueno.
No. So that's where we're at the moment. So look, we are getting leads. We're getting really good leads through. I guess a lot of it, I've been working on kind of meeting the designers and architects we want to work with. So, for doing that for the past few years, we are getting the leads through that we want. For the most part, we're getting those leads that we want to be getting through. But we just need to get one of them over the line now to up in that region where we want to be working. And I don't mind doing the kind of the lesser value stuff if they're interesting jobs.
Right.
But I think it's just those bigger jobs. One, they have a longer timeline, so they have more security for us. If we know there's a year and a half on that job, that's a good solid base to have, as opposed to a 6-month job where we know we're going to need to be starting another job in 6 months.
Right. I think we look at it the same way as the smaller projects we're certainly interested in case by case. It really comes down to creativity and if we can put our spin on it. But the longer projects are, they're more attractive because there is a lot of time invested in it. And, when there's more time to invest in it, we tend to feel as though we can be more creative with it. And
there's also more security.
Yeah,
whether it's false, it can't be.
Right. True. I mean, you have this, like you said, you're not looking for another job to start in 6 months, but it is. I think it comes down to creativity and if it's just a genuine right project for us, and if it's a good fit, and is the goal. What is your target? Like if someone said, hey, when do you what is your cap? Are you looking to do $2 million jobs, $5 million jobs?
I'm not planning on doing the $5 million jobs just yet. I'm happy enough doing the kind of I think where I'd like to be, over the next few years is kind of the $1 to $2 million jobs, ideally. And
that puts you in like a 10-month to probably 18-month.
Absolutely, yeah. And they're generally projects that will have a higher level of finish, basically,
right?
Which is more interesting to us, basically, as opposed to just building square footage. That's not really as interesting to me. Just building a huge house without the detail.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'd like to be over the next couple of years. Just a case of putting the work in to get there, really.
And that's been.
Can you imagine what Nick thinks in his head compared to what he actually says out loud? What he gave you for a range, what his personal goals are probably like add 2 zeros, right?
Me?
Did you think that when he said it? It's like, what's your range? Like, what are you going for? Like 5 million to 10 million? Nick's head's like 100 million.
I'm not 100 million.
Where are you at right now?
I'd love to do a $100 million job, but
when you're 45?
Yeah, maybe way out then. No, I don't know. I mean, there's part of me that does want to build a high rise under like my own belt, not as a PM, just because I enjoyed like a lot of that process, and I don't know. There was what the hell was that kid's
So it's
name?
gonna be like the NS Tower, like Trump Tower.
No, so hold on. You remember the kid?
All gold leaf.
Hold on. No, I'm not gold. Maybe.
Dude, you were gold all over NS in the beginning.
Hold on. What was that kid's name? That Andy. He was a roofer, I think, in like Detroit. He was crazy. And
I do remember him, and he just disappeared.
Yeah, so I met him in Detroit, and that was his goal. He was like, dude, all I want to do one day is I just want to build a tower and put my name on the side of it. And I don't want to necessarily. I don't want to
roofing. He was roofing.
Yeah.
He was re-roofing, or roofing like apartment buildings.
Yeah, like he would. Yeah, like hundreds of squares a day.
That's a tough jump. That's not like a lateral thing. That's like.
No, I know, but the point I was
talking to him, not you, on that one. If he's listening, that's not a lateral move.
Well, he was doing other real estate stuff, but either way, like I remember having that conversation. I was like, yeah, ever since I built, or I shouldn't say I built. I was an APM on that the high rise in my old company. I've always looked, when I walk by certain buildings, like Cedar is a perfect example. I shouldn't say perfect example. They're an example, but they do everything from super high end luxury homes to building high rises in New York City.
All guys from Shamit. They took when Shamit took when
either way, it's just like that's such a crazy spread to build homes.
But it's not crazy to them. Is that
I know it's
most of their upper management
so
came
it's
from
not
Shamit,
crazy
which
to
is
me.
down the street.
Sure. I
don't. To me,
your question was, where's my head at? Yeah, I'd love to build a high rise. That's like just like something I'd like to do for fun. But I don't know.
It's not even on my radar.
It's not on my radar. Like it's right outside the radar.
But like, why would it? Why just take up space in your brain?
It's not. This is the first time I've thought of it all week.
Today.
No, I think for us, I would love to be homes anywhere under 10 million. And I just think.
Do you think that market's here?
I do. I think it's
very selective.
Yes, I was just.
If you were in Cali,
that's exactly what I was going to say. It's very selective. The market's definitely here. I see it. I know people that are working on them, but it is very selective. And
they're all done by like the same two builders. So that the break-in margin there,
yes
I think
or no.
California, it's the numbers are much higher.
There's a kid in the city that's all he does is anywhere from like $10 to $30 million projects, and he's a smaller.
Give him a shout out, dude.
He would not like that. I know that. Very private guy. He probably would show up in my office.
Let's do
but
it.
he just
Can we guess?
No,
I'm joking.
But he's a smaller firm, and he's very similar. He's a very similar setup as us, and he just got into that market, and he's been cruising ever since. But
I do like Pomeroy. I think of like Payne Boucher.
Right.
Like there's
I don't even know if Payne Boucher's in that market.
I mean, F.H. Perry was up there too if we're talking city stuff, but I feel like Cali has a much broader market that is like over 10 million.
Agreed. And if my wife's listening, which I know she's not, she would be saying, "I told you so, let's move."
My son's all about real estate, and he just keeps going back to this Cali market. It's huge. It's not like it's one town.
No.
Like I think in Massachusetts, it's like a half a dozen towns.
But I also don't think, and I say up to 10 million. I think ideally, the 5 to 8 million is where we would target, which is obviously a bigger, but it's still it's just still a hard market where the anything under 3 million is, everywhere.
Well, I think 3 million is the new spec.
Right.
Like entry level for a lot of the market. Like
I also want to build very distinctive homes that just don't exist around here, which everyone tells me that
all over the place. You want to build skyscrapers.
Forget the skyscrapers.
I'm gonna go back rewind a little bit to where we talked about longer projects. Longer duration projects, and we just said, hey, there's it adds this false sense of security. I also think with the smaller projects, when you don't have something coming online, you make different decisions on finances and what products you
you might blur the lines on, like we all talked about, oh, what interests me, what's exciting. There's a whole bunch of us on this, and I've been there, where you're like, normally at the end of a project, when we're doing like way back basement renovations or renovation, it's like 2 to 4 months long. That after, when you're 3 months into a 6-month project, you're like, you should be bidding other stuff. And we've all been there, whether the market crashed or whatever, that you're now 5 months into a 6-month project and there's nothing else coming online. So you're just going to take whatever comes next. And I think that what we glazed over was that I wrote down was that decision process. I think, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, those longer projects give you the ability to do a better job of vetting your next group of products that are going to be 6 months to a year long. You guys agree?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. It is a case that's one of the reasons why we want to get those longer jobs, is you can just make better decisions. I think that, like with the jobs that are around 6 months, I find you're always kind of planning on, right. You're either kind of planning for that handover stage, or just the cycle is too short, I find. And we just need those. For us, a good fit for us is having 2 of those bigger jobs would be amazing. And then we can have the smaller jobs ticking over in the background. That would be perfect for us, I think.
Yeah, it's really tough to run a business based on the financial burden. You get me? And I know it sounds obvious, but making decisions for your company based on, what you have coming in, having those big jobs. Yeah, I mean, think about a relationship with a great client. Like even a girl or a boy, it's like, it's not that you might have that initial chemistry when you meet someone if you're dating them, but then once you get to know them, whether it's online through social media now, like they can do with us, you get to know them. It's going to take a couple months. Right. So like you'd have to, before you even start your next project, you'd already have to be talking to the project beyond that one. So it's like, how do you focus on that? And that's the toughest part about having these small projects, is that your bandwidth, and like to be able to keep everything like right on the tip of your tongue is like, hey, this is what's happening with this one. And maybe people have ADD and can dial that in really well and be able to juggle multiple balls that are really coming quick, and your completion's right there. And then you're starting up and then completion, the 2 toughest parts of a build, they're back to back all the time. Instead of doing that 6 times a year, you're doing it 24. That seems crazy to me. But making sure that you can, like, it's taking me 2 years to get in a relationship with 2 architects, and there's no way of rushing it. And I'm still, whatever it is, courting another one. That's a huge relationship for me, and that's going to be $2 to $3 million builds for me. And it's like, why would I speed that up? I wouldn't know how to.
Well, how long are your job durations, Johnny? 2 years or a year?
I feel like our low end is a year. And then we do slide in a few of these renos that we've done. Like we were just in Boston Home Magazine, and that was like a 6-month.
Congrats.
Reno. Yeah. Thank you. It's a good one. I haven't pushed it out, but yeah, no, it's good, and that's with Nikki. But we do slide in a few of those, and it's almost like, literally we joke, Benny and I, even the guys, like, it's like, what are we gonna give away this year? Like, I did like the barbershop a couple years ago, and in hopes that it would be like, it opened us up to like the Celtics and the Patriots, and that went 0. It opened me up to people that wanted a barbershop in their house. But no, it's like, so like this year we have a client that we've talked to for years, and we knew that the product wouldn't fit us budget wise, so we did a design for them, and Benny and I just sat back and was like, we can't leave them to the wolves. Like, we're like, hey, we'll do the design for you, and then you could then go have it bid out. And, with their 3 daughters, and both of them are teachers, it's like, we just made the call that if we have to lower our margin on that build, that's one that we're going to put, that's what we're going to do. It's how we have to do it, and that's why we're skilled. We have enough other projects that can cover us we're not financially risky at it, but we can lower our margin for that one. And I get it. People, I have clients that listen to this too. It's like, why don't we get that? It's like, well, they're a friend of it. Like, I went to college with a guy. He played defense. I was a freshman. He was a senior. This is his sister. So it's like, God, they so deserve it. I know every family does, but I get really hung up on that part of it, is that, we provide a service and an expectation and experience. And I couldn't think of another person that deserves it, or family, and it's going to be tight. We know, but we'll make sure all people do it, our subs, and not call it in for free. But it's and then next year, I already have my eyes on my next year freebie. It's going to be for soldiers. I'm going to try and pull my act together this year, so we have office manager, bookkeeper, all that, controller, and then the right PM, so we can do a home for soldiers that come home.
Yeah, nice.
I want to do it. I want to do it year one. It's like, okay, let's be real.
Yeah. Like with those longer projects, I mean, that's still going to take a year. Like you could be working with that client for a year before you get it over the line.
100%. I had a call today. I posted on my story. We just went in front of the Weston building department as like a walkthrough. Hey, what do you see that's going to be upside down? And that client's texting me right now. I keep looking at my phone. Another client texts me and go, hey, my AC is frozen. I built the house 7 years ago. And he's like, do you have a small sump pump? I'm like, I can drop it off tomorrow morning, but I don't have a sump pump. He's like, don't worry. That's so, while we're on this call, this is all happening. But no, that we had a call today that was been going on a year. They walked Ivy Custom and wanted to buy Maurice, and they couldn't. So we worked with them for about 6 months to find a lot. They bought one in Weston. It had a 1 year wait because it was historic. So this one's been almost a year and a half in the works. Wow. And they brought in their own architect, no contract with them, all good faith. Met with them. I go on every call, reviewed every drawing. I've ballpark priced the whole thing and then hard price it right now because there's dimensions. As I put it, there's dimensions on the drawings. It's gone almost to CD.
It's a good start.
Yeah, well, every architect throws out schematics and there's no dimensions on it. You got to scale it. It's like good luck getting pricing on that. That's just crazy. And it's but yeah, they go in front of the board for real. It's in my other notebook. November 15th. That's when they submit their drawings and we can knock it down. That's the one we did the asbestos testing on it. And usually, hey, ballpark wise, it's $5,000. How about 28,000? The entire outside stucco's hot and the interior drywall.
Purple.
That's not how you want to start first.
That doesn't sound too bad. 28
Dude,
grand.
it's usually $5,000 tops. It's usually 25
usually not
to 55.
the whole exterior.
It's usually like window glazing,
Right.
So, and that's how I set the expectation. This is how the last 10 houses have been. Testing will be $800, and then abatement will be $2,500 to $5,500. And then it comes back at 28. And I'm like, awesome. This is the first thing in our relationship. It's a huge relationship thing. I'm like, I'm going to lose their trust. We're going to break up.
Right.
Yeah. I've been talking about ideal jobs and stuff we've been chatting about. I'd love to start getting into passive houses.
Ooh.
Do they push it down there?
That's a trigger for us.
Not really. It's a new. Well, not that much. I've done my course. I've got my exam in 2 weeks' time to become passive house certified. But yeah, it's not really a big thing here. Like in Australia, following your builds, air tightness and all that side of things is seems to be a lot bigger in the US than it is here. Mm-hmm. But it's really not pushed that much here. Like there's none of the zip wall kind of systems or anything like that here.
Do you even have close-up foam? Do you have power tools?
No, they're just coming online now. Yeah, they're amazing.
You guys have been hand nail and trim for the last.
But yeah, I mean, look, the passive house. I'd love to be. That's what I'm going to start pushing. Is trying to get into that niche.
What's your first step?
Getting certified is my first step, and starting
second step.
Yeah. Getting architects on board, or reaching out to architects that actually do that kind of work. Basically, that's the next step for sure.
Are they in the area? Do they exist?
There's a few. I've talked to one already. That's a couple of architects we work with are really on board with moving that direction. They haven't done any yet because it's quite a new thing here in Australia, or kind of it's not that common here yet. But yeah, there's a few architects around that are doing it essentially, and that kind of market themselves as that's what they do essentially, you know. So
this is a passion project, not so much that there's an open market for you. You're going to create it.
Yeah, that's the aim. Yeah. I mean, look, in Australia, single glazing on windows is still standard.
Wow.
So I thought it was all just screens out there. Do you guys even get bad weather? Like,
yeah, it's colder in the winter. It drops below 10 degrees.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're lying to me.
Yeah, no, like not Celsius, not Fahrenheit.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not cold,
Jesus.
but look, it
It's
does
like
get
talking in centimeters over there.
it does get, look, you know, glazing and things like that. It's still really common for single glazing to be put in. We push double glazing on all our projects, kind of as a standard. But yeah, I feel like we've got a long way to come.
Is it winter over there now? Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, it's spring. Just turned spring, actually.
I was thinking the same thing because he's got like a fleece on.
Yeah. And 10 degrees Celsius is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, it's spring. It's just turned spring, and it's going to be 29 degrees Celsius on Thursday. So
Google
hold
that.
on,
Nick.
hold
What do
on.
you got?
84 degrees. Woo!
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Wait, in your spring?
I know, mental. Yeah.
Wait,
what's summer?
How hot? Yeah, what does summer get?
It can look. It's up in the 30s most of the time, but it does get into kind of 40s degrees Celsius.
40?
whatever
Okay,
that
that's
is.
104 degrees.
Yeah.
And that's
pretty
a
hot.
consistent. It's not a heat wave. That's consistent. Like
No,
days
that would be pretty hot. That would be pretty hot, but kind of mid 30s.
Okay.
Yeah,
So like
mid 30s is pretty common.
95 degrees.
I think if you adopt passive house, you should just adopt degrees too. Just change everything over and just be
Never.
like, yeah, it's like 17 degrees. It's like 95. Just talk, dude. You're from Ireland. You can do whatever you want. You're just going against the.
Yeah, pass card.
With passive house is, you know, obviously that's the performance of the home, but what about the health and like from a carbon footprint and things like that? Is that because you guys don't have spray foam down there, right? I think John alluded to that question.
Well, not that I know of. It might be used a bit, but yeah, not
I think that
commonly,
other kid,
no.
Nicholson.
Yeah, which he also
Yeah.
disappeared.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. Yeah.
I think his shorts got too short, and they just.
John, you wear short shorts once, you're gonna realize how great they are.
No, I run when the short seam, but I mean, gentlemen, that's
Be
short.
careful.
But gentlemen,
I got goods.
They're not modesty shorts, that's for sure. Anyway.
so I think, you know, because passive is one, you know, is one thing. You're looking at the performance of the home, but then you go down, I'll call it a rabbit hole of, you know, the health and the consideration of materials that are used, and that's something that you know, passive certification is something that I've kind of toyed with getting, but I haven't. But the consideration of what materials that we're using in a home is, you know, every step. You know, even when we had a project recently that, you know, the architect wasn't going to design anything beyond a 5-page sheet. So then it's like, all right, I'm taking those details and then, you know, and changing them so we're not using just spray foam, for example. We're looking at exterior insulation details and moving the dew point and blah, blah, blah. I know that's a trigger word, but, you know, being more considerate in the way that we build, you know, and trying to, you know, there's so much to it, right? There's so many products, there's so many layers, there's so much to try to stay up on it, and it's constantly evolving, and it's evolving faster and faster and faster. Yeah. So, like, you know, that was my long-winded question of asking you, like, is that something that you're also approaching? Is that
absolutely? So look, I don't know from what aspect, but look, in the just talking to the passive house course that I did, a lot of it was about having a healthy home, essentially. So, you know, obviously the performance, you have to meet kind of key criteria to get the passive house and hit those targets. But a lot of it was the technique of how to get or where to get the air barrier, where to get the insulation, all of that side of things to have a healthy mold-free home, essentially.
Right.
So from that aspect, that was definitely that was a huge part of the course, actually.
But was that basically the breathing of the home, how it breathes, so it's not so tight? Is that what the healthy part of it was kind of curated around?
Well, it was to make sure that, as you say, I know dew point is a kind of a
just
thing
moisture control.
Yeah, moisture control, essentially, to make sure you're controlling the moisture correctly, to make sure you're getting the ventilation system correct as well, so the heat exchange and that side of things. So then you have full control of the air quality in the home, essentially, as well. I find that really interesting. I mean, do you get into what always kills me with building is how much absolute rubbish we have on site, like the amount of plastic sheeting and all that crap.
Unbelievable.
It kills me.
We did an episode a couple weeks ago, and it was like plastic was like, how could you build without it? And then I got flooring delivered, and every bundle had plastic wrapped on it, and I was like, I was why? Like, what is this doing? Like, I just, if you really focus on plastic on your job site, even like paint is plastic. Look at my job site. Look at my house right now. It's all around me.
Your backdrop.
But it's just like a necessary evil, and passive house is amazing. I absolutely love it. I think it's the kind of gold standard for how we should think about a home, and it's beyond just products and placement and all that. It's about how you live in it and how you place a home. It's not. It may not be placed on the road the right way. It might be placed on where the sun hits it the right way, or wind. I think it's how you live in it is also affected. But to Nick's point, what goes into it has been overlooked for so long. We've been so focused on energy efficiency that maybe we're putting in products that aren't the best, that in 15 years it's going to be like formaldehyde. You know, it's in fiberglass insulation. It still is, matter of fact. So it's like, should we be doing that? You know, it's those steps. And like, you know, we had the great one with Ross, and knowing that Ecobee has a thermostat that will talk in to your HR. You getting hot? Is it spring there? What?
Yeah, it's spring. Yeah, starting at 29 degrees is on its way.
and it's just tough that, like, to Nick's talk is like, you know, as everything evolves, I think it's the people. I think if you want to stay in a bubble and still build with, you know, CDX plywood or particle board, you live in that window and you're fine. But if you want to expand and be a better builder and understand different products, that means you got to think outside the box, and it opens you up to things that wake you up at 2 a.m. That make you think about, what am I doing for the environment and my family and my kids? Like, it makes me think about like what's going on in the world right now with all these riots and stuff, and in privilege. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but it's like my boys, my 2 kids, have no clue what's happening. I don't have a clue. I see it on a couple TikToks or whatever that's happening in the universe, and my wife fills me in because she watches the news. I just stay away from it. But it's like, they have no idea. There's a lot of builders out there that are exactly the same way. Been doing the same thing forever, and they could be contaminating clients. Like, cancer's on the rise like crazy, and you can blame whatever. Like, I could blame the fact that, you know, my water I get from Smart Water doesn't make me any smarter, by the way. Test proven otherwise. That it's plastic, and it gets shipped to me in a truck that it's probably 130 degrees. So what happens to that water quality before it was tested when it left the factory to where it is now? It's the same difference. Like, how are we thinking outside the box? Or are we just building the build to get from point A to point B and not thinking about all the gray area in between? It's like we started putting in, I used to put in water filtration systems, and then you got a really good client that has the budget, and they go, no, that actually takes out all the minerals in the water, so you can't do that system. I'm like, I just installed 15 of those over the last 7 years. Like, what do I then go back and tell those clients, you spent $4,000 to $8,000 in this system because we thought it was the right thing to do, but actually what you're drinking is taking minerals away from your body, and you have to now take supplements? Like, you know, you get me, like, as you go, and it's like,
and that's where you play this game of being naive to it, right? And it's like, I didn't know any better, which, you know, works in this scenario because it's like I'm trying to relate it to like
It's
breaking the law,
thing.
right? Like
No,
you can't
it's the
just
same
be.
thing. Oh, God. It's
Well,
the same thing.
you just can't be. You can't just say like, "Well, I didn't know." Like it's gonna get to a point where like people can't say that. But
No,
the
but it's also the flip side of if I didn't return that email to a sub because I didn't have time, it's the same excuse. I'm not going to focus on that because I don't have time. I'm building a house, I gotta do
right?
this.
But that's what I'm getting at is it's going to get it. That's why code is becoming stricter. Passive will become code. Like all of these things are pushing towards this, and eventually, these things will become standard in the way we build, and there won't you won't be allowed to get away with it. It's going to take years, and the problem is it's overwhelming the amount of information out there, the good, the bad, and the completely false.
Fast food information.
Right.
I think it's also the fact there's a lot of products out there that are huge. They're huge players in the industry that have too much inventory on the market that if you change a code, you can't change a code in 24 hours, even if we found it was super detrimental to our industry and our lives. It's because the industry is for the products. It's there. The reality, it's there to make money. Mm-hmm. It's not there for our health. And that's true for a lot of things. Like electric cars, look at the environment that was bought by ExxonMobil and all that stuff in the beginning that killed it. Imagine if Tesla came out with an electric car 15 years ago. What do you think our emissions would be in the world, and how much would we have these fires and the hurricanes and all that stuff? We're going down a deep dive, but it's like, what would change? What would change if we got to make a move? Do we need a Tesla? Do we need an Elon Musk for our industry?
Yes.
To really change it and really just go, hey, I'm boring holes in Cali. Like, call me crazy, but you'll get on board when it's done. Mm-hmm. Mm. What are those changes that need to be made? Do we need to create a passive house of our own on how we think about a code on what products go in?
Let's build the healthiest home.
But for what? But with people being not asymptomatic, but having like exposure and like sinuses, and so many people have so many different things that they're allergic to or have reactions to, that perfect home, Nick, I don't know if it can be met across the board as a general rule of thumb. I think you'd have to almost go into a testing process of like my wife did this thing due to stress. It's like, do all these spit tests and gut biome and all this stuff to understand what it is that, like, she never ate fish forever, for as long as I met her, because I'd freak out at every restaurant. She'd go, hey, do you think that fish is fried in the same pan as what I'm getting? And she'd casually say it, and I'm like, that'll kill you, right? That's how that works, like with your reaction. But it's like, then she got tested like 2 years ago, and it turns out she can eat fish. Like, I think that needs to be what it is that like what you're allergic to and what you react to and what your family's, that you should build around that. In the crazy mind that I have, it's like each client should be a one-off thing, then you kind of manipulate what you need to do, obviously where
I just think
are.
there needs to be a new baseline.
Yeah, true.
Absolutely, yeah.
You're right, John. Like, it's not going to be a one product solves all, but the baseline right now is so, lackluster.
It's archaic.
Yeah, I like lackluster. The alliteration really got me. Listen, I've been on this adventure this whole time, so.
See? Hey, you're gonna start using that and watch. Hey, I put everyone.
It's like
in my
website.
phone.
It's gonna be like about us, your adventure.
Well, it's so true though. Like what we were talking about in the beginning is like when we talked about like what client gets you going. It's on us to put those questions in a certain tone on our website to influence that reaction.
That's what I was going to say. What I want to do is I want to put together kind of a package on, because when we get sent a set of plans, it's all about the aesthetics. A lot of it is not about how the building performs. So I want to put together a package as part of our sales adventure, that we can show how we're going to put together that the structure essentially, so the products we're going to use, and actually use it as kind of a marketing tool, to set ourselves apart. Because most clients won't, if they look at 2 quotes, they're not going to they're not going to see the difference unless you actually unless you kind of try and educate them. That's my feeling anyway.
Hands down. But I think what you should do is, which I haven't done and Nick's done very well, is if you're going to go through the effort of stipulating these certain products, you should team up with those products.
Yeah.
You have a social media following, you have the right morals and the intent and the passion behind it, that any company that you're willing to put in your baseline, in your, hey, I can't, like, there's no substitution. You're not going to get pork fried rice. Okay.
Right.
You're going to get crab rangoon. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
It's a special. So you got to get that, and you got to partner with those companies, because I've had clients lately be like, hey, you're not leveraging that end enough. I'm like, I'm focused on the build. And they're like, as a business person, you're losing. And I'm like, oh, you drive home and you're like, you absolutely have a point. But my goal isn't to be a personality. It's to be a builder.
But
go ahead. I want to hear it.
I agree with that. I do have I do like being as you call it, a personality. But they're right about the business side of it. It's like, I'm not doing this just to be a personality. I think, there's definitely, I'm not going to lie and say that there's no part of me that doesn't want that, but a big part of it is very much about the morals and what I want to bring as a builder to my client. And that you said it. It's like partnering with the right people and the right brands to standardize, this is how we're going to approach a project.
But at the same time, to do it right, you need to have the right team in place. Because at any given time, this is what I toy with, and I always ask you, Nick, and it comes across awful, is that, I want to document all of it. Like, I started a YouTube page and I want to have multiple series. The nuts and bolts of it is, I would rather either get some sleep tonight or finish off an email or get emails out to certain subs or anybody, instead of creating episode 2 of a project. You get me? It's really tough for me. It's like, hey, I don't want a client to ever have the ammo to say to me, hey, can you not post something today and just get what you promised done? That's what my biggest, like, I never want to hear it. And that's what really edges me out, where I end up posting at like 11 o'clock at night or at a crazy time, or when I'm really comfortable with all the job sites because everything's rolling, is when I post the most, is because I don't feel like it's taking away from my due diligence of a job site. And that's my really hard. And it's funny, I've had clients recently say to me, hey, you need to do this more, because they're like, this disappears. Like, I had a client not yell at me on Saturday, was like, hey, this project should have its own domain, and it should have this own presence in media that stays. And I got my arms up like I'm God. And I'm like, and you're right. I go, you're absolutely right. But I don't have enough separation from the job site to be able to make that happen. And I was just upfront with them. I'm like, I'm making the right strides to get there, but right now, to do what you want, there's got to be compensation. Something's got to compensate. Meaning, hey, that's not the right word, I don't think. But it's like, hey, if you want that video done and I'm going to edit all that, then guess what? We're not going to get the schedule that you want on time. The budget and some things might slide because this is more priority. It's just knowing my bandwidth. And I'm not very good at doing that because I always take on more. The problem is that I'm hoping as I get older and get grayer, I can, slow down enough to, make sense. It kills me.
Nick, do you put together a package of, I suppose, standard, like, I suppose a standard, like, wall setup, that kind of thing? As part of your...
No, it's something that we're working on now. It actually started.
Better if you said did it yesterday.
Yeah, I did it yesterday.
Everything was yesterday.
It was up on my whiteboard as of last week. It actually stemmed from the Christine Williamson podcast, and I actually sent her a message like the next week. I was like, hey, can I just continue to pick your brain on Dew Point? And I really want to understand it. And she linked me to her father's website and a bunch of just like...
She sent you a proposal.
Yeah, she's expensive, but worth it. No, but just really like dumbing it down for me as a builder to understand like what do I need to be paying attention to, And am I, because I think it's oftentimes also it can be it's overwhelming in the sense that you feel as though you're going, like, how far do I have to go? Like, do I actually have to thermally break the window flange on my window? Or is that so minor that I'm not really going to see, a performance increase on that?
Okay.
Thank you.
Nick just got his food.
Yeah.
Thank you. Question from me to you, obviously. So why do you drill down on something like this with Christine, but yet are comfortable subbing out safety and not willing to learn that end of it for your PMs? Like, why not sub out? Why not just bring Christine in as a sub and just kind of let them understand the envelope, delegate it to them that they know it all?
Because they don't have the time.
Who? Christine doesn't?
No, my PMs. Before they all go, because it's the same. It's actually the same exact thing I'm doing with the safety guy. Is that I'm making the connection. I'm understanding it first. I'm helping put together the process or the system, and then we'll release it to the company.
You've completely subbed it out for safety. You're not doing.
No,
a deep
I've worked
dive
with him.
Safety,
huh?
I guess the way I understood it was that you're basically subcontracting that out. That they have to create the process. You just hired them for that. And I'm just wondering why you wouldn't just hire out Christine to go vet the product. Same thing you do with Ross. Let them do it. You don't need to do a deep dive. It's like, how much time do you really have?
No, I mean, it was just I spent an hour on the phone, and I just wanted to make sure.
I'm not taking a shot. I'm just trying to understand the evolution of where your brain goes. Is like, all right, I value this, not over this, but I'm gonna put my time. And that's something that I want to understand.
I mean, I worked with him to develop the safety plan. Yes, he is now taking it and putting legs to that and documentation to that, based on all the reasons that I need. I feel as though I need a safety plan. The Christine thing is, I wanted to have a conversation with her and understand, when I look at a wall section, what should I be paying attention to? Because we have projects that are looking to achieve certain things, and I'd love to figure out a way to do this in a manner that I could standardize across the board, meaning anytime I build a home, this is the wall assembly we're going to approach with. And maybe that changes, but here's our standard. I think everyone always ends up commenting about this, but I think it's like hammer and nail or something, but they have like a total SOP for their every process that they do, like how to install a window, how we flash a window, and it's just how they do it. And that's, John, like, agreed, you're not going to standardize the creativity behind it, but if you can get rid of the, hey, are we using zip or are we using blue skin? Just stop. Why is that a question? Like, just standardize, hey, this is how we do it, and this is why. This is our wall assembly, and this is why. And, it has to start with me, because I need to be able to believe in that system in order for my PMs to believe in that system. That's why I value me putting the time into it now, because after this, then it's just a matter of the team implementing it.
And I guess you're going to be ultimately responsible for making sure it's implemented,
right?
As well. It's all well and good designing it, but
right,
making sure it's being put into place as well.
And I don't know, I enjoy it. I guess maybe that's what it comes down to, is I like figuring that stuff out. That's fun for me.
Yeah, I don't know how you time manage. That's said with love.
You've said that. I know. You said that a lot, and it's every time you say it, I kind of question. I'm like, am I actually doing a good job at time managing? Because I don't think I am.
Dude, when you used to have a cabinet shop, like for reals, when you used to do it, you'd like go on a deep dive on like Blum hardware, like down to like SKU numbers, and I'd be like, really? Like, really? Like out of all the things in the universe that you got to dive into, it's going to be hardware. And then that still carried on as you were a builder. Like you went, not that you turned into a builder, but like we go to the builder show and you're like, I got to go over to the hardware. I got to go see Blum or whoever it is. And I'd be like, there's acreage of products here. And that's where your mind goes to. And I'm fascinated by understanding what it is that you will subcontract out, because I think it's a very tough thing for all. Look at Tyler. Like, he would just rather keep the product small so he doesn't sub out anything. Then there's the other spectrum like us where you have to, because you've already gone to a point where you're comfortable with letting go of a certain amount of control. And I guess that's what I was trying to understand by safety, which people can get hurt and harmed and whatever. In health to a home has its same implications, but just at a different ramification, not as instantaneous. Like, how do you value one over the other? I just want to understand where you took it. That's why I asked it.
Yeah, I think it just comes to what I enjoy. And it's like I enjoy the details and being creative with that stuff, where it's like safety, that isn't creative for me. I want to make sure I understand the process so I get it and I support it. But beyond that, I don't need to write the process, because I'm not the right guy to write the process. Working with Ross, it's the same thing. Like, I want to understand it, but if we were doing a project and we needed, Ross understands mechanical, HVAC design far more than I ever will. I'll start getting I'll start understanding the simple points to it, where I can probably get pretty close. But an envelope assembly, it's kind of you figure out your climate zone, you set it and you forget it. It's not necessarily re-engineering on every project. If it got to a point where it needed to be re-engineered, yeah, I might reach out to Christine and say, hey, I'd love to sub this out to you and have you work on the exterior envelope details with me. Mic drop.
Sorry, no, I get it. I think we're too deep in that one. And my mind races, and then I sound like I'm an asshole. So,
just for the record, guys, Johnny's not an asshole. He just comes off as arrogant, but he's really kind.
Yeah.
Leave him a good review, please.
Yeah, I guess as I got older, I ran out of time to really. I just cut it straight. And again, I've had. There's a realtor that I talk with, and she's like, you know what you get from me. And I'm like, but you also get what you give off. So like if you're a stern pain in the ass, kind of no bullshit thing, guess what you get in return is that same stuff. So it's, I think giving off a little bit different appeal. And I guess with the podcast, like we said before, there's certain people that have been on this podcast that have been full of shit, and we can pump their tires. It just doesn't do any good it's a waste. I could be with my family right now. Right. You could be at work. It's what is it? It's 9.
He's probably got to get to work,
here.
huh?
And it's 10:30 in the morning.
10:30. I gotta use that one too. 10:30.
Yeah. 10:30. I'll have to send you a list.
Please. Just a little glossary of what we should be.
Translation book.
George, I appreciate you hanging out. Are you headed to work after this?
It's been. I am indeed. I've got a million missed calls in my phone, so.
Well,
yeah.
You're stressing me out, man.
It's 10:30. What'd you say? 10? 10:30? No, what'd you say?
10:30. Yeah.
10:30.
Yeah.
Ooh,
it's nearly 11:15.
Oh, Jesus!
I know you guys don't use that as well. Here you go.
Well, George, we
so I'll be back into work. Wednesday's my office day, so I dedicate every Wednesday to the office. So
there you go.
I'll be back on it.
Before you go, what's where can people find you?
Yep. So my Instagram handle is @McGarry Constructions, and our new website is www.mcgarryconstructions.com.au.
It looks incredible.
That's right.
The website looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
really happy with it.
Really good.
I just proofed mine today, so I'm excited too.
Nice.
I want a sneak peek. Show me a sneak
I can send you a link.
Good stuff.
But so
it's worth it.
George, just Matt Gary.
I know. I want to call him Gary too.
One of the questions we got from our survey is, what would you have told yourself when you were younger that you know now that would have helped you?
Oh, geez.
People want us to ask questions directly to the clients, to the people on, and it's like people get like thrown off and get embarrassed when we do these direct questions.
I don't know. That's a really hard one, without sounding too cliche on anything.
But they're obvious.
I don't
If
know.
it's obvious, it is obvious.
Yeah, I mean, look, I suppose one of the main things is, what could I tell myself? That it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a lot of hard work to get everything in place, essentially. That's probably,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a tricky question. Yeah.
I like the quote to that one is, it took me 10 years to be an overnight success.
Yeah.
And that's the truth of it.
Apart from Nick, it took him 4 years. Skyrocket.
Listen, I'm still like spiraling out of control.
Dude, it's all camera angle. We talked about it in the beginning.
Yeah, I'll try those new camera angles, yeah.
Do you guys have the iPhone down there?
We do, it just came out. iPhone 1. Pretty cool.
I was just piggybacking on John. Well, George, thank you so much,
They
man.
get all the Super Bowl shirts that no one wins. Like they send them to Ozzy, right?
Nah, lads, thanks for having me on. It's been great.
For sure, man.
I've got a lot out of the podcast all the way through. Been listening from the start, so really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you listening and the support and being on.
Yeah, it was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
All right, go get some work done. We'll talk soon.
All right, gents. Thanks
Take
very
care.
much.
Really
See
appreciate
you.
it.
Bye-bye.
I wanted to ask him about McKim, and I didn't, but he's in
Yeah,
Victoria.
I know. I thought you. I had it
know
on my
it.
notes.
I know, but he's in Melbourne, which is a total different
Do we have him
state.
scheduled or no?
McKim, no. They. I know. I'm working on it. Someone answered me on Instagram and said, "Yeah, sure," and then haven't got back to me.
I've been trying to get that Drop House company out of Cali that does all that steel.
Oh yeah.
And they're just like, I'm slam, man. I'm like, I totally understand, but I really want you on. Like every post I see, it's very, they don't post enough, but when they do like a story and it's like, they want a story, it's like all these steel members laid out all over the ground. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to talk to you right now.
Right.
Like, it's
Well, all right, let's throw this out to the listen. I know we have some guys in Melbourne listening, so if you can hook us up with Nick McKim, I want to chat with him because he has an interesting business model building crazy luxury homes, but really the crazy luxury condos as I want to dig into.
Nick, I know how you do it. You email them and go, hey, I've been stalking you for a little bit.
I did that. I literally said that, and I got a reply, but I didn't get a scheduled date.
I don't know. I'm excited because we're changing gears.
Whoa! Whoa! Are we gonna drop who we got?
I don't see why not.
All right. Well, first off, who's up next week? Let's pull up the schedule for next week.
Not to put them
before you
down.
get too ahead of yourself. Oh, we got Chase, Matthew Chase.
Oh yes.
So, oh no, I'm sorry. totally read that wrong. He's coming up. We have Matthew Chase coming up. Actually, the following week. Next week we have a different Chase.
Woodworking.
Yes, next week we have Chase and I think Bill from HDI Stairs down in Rhode Island.
Oh,
Chase is his
HDI.
son. Yeah. So we have a back-to-back Chase episode. But HDI Stairs is next week, and then Matthew Chase is the following week.
maybe he'll give me a price on the project that I sent them.
You should probably do that offline.
Stay here.
No, all right. So you said we're shifting gears. We're gonna do a little series around a different industry.
Mm-hmm.
Still craftsmanship related. You got what, 2 or 3 lined up?
3 lined up. Yeah.
And
it goes. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Who do you got?
It's just my passion. Well, my love is an early Bronco, and so it's kind of dovetailed into learning more about certain people in the industry of mechanics and cars and trucks and understanding how it's almost seamless with all the stuff that we talk about with craftsmanship.
Yeah.
How the kind of the ladder to get in this industry, and the issues that come with that, whether it's stigma or whatever, and it's college or not college and all this, and it's very, very similar to that whole world.
So you got 3 lined up. I think I got 1, possibly 2 in the auto industry. I'm just working on dates with them, so that'll be fun. And I think we should. I'd love to expand. I think I shouldn't say I. We all want to expand this craftsmanship talk to other industries and dig into it. Just outside of the necessary building industry.
And they've also said the same thing on the survey, is that we have 39 people that have responded to the survey, and it's been great information. But so to let everyone know, I love Icon 4x4, the industry, the company, and Jonathan's coming on. I've listened to all his podcasts, watched a bunch of his lives, and what he creates for vehicles and what he thinks about the auto industry is very similar to what I think is going to happen to the building industry if we do what Nick wants to do and do all this automated and panelized systems. But he's going to come on. I don't have the date in front of me. I think you got the calendar. And then we have Vintage Broncos is going to come on, and then Zero Labs, which makes a electric Bronco. That's
Sick.
kind of I know that Icon's doing the same thing, but Zero Labs has been doing it for a minute now, and it's a great product. So to kind of get a couple different takes on what they do, and also indulge in my early Bronco fixation, I thought it was a no-brainer. The fact that they said yes, I thought having Jonathan on was huge because he's been on Joe Rogan's twice, and the fact that I sent him an email and absolutely responded and goes, "Love what you guys are doing. I'm happy to be on." And I was
That's sick. Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my god, he responded."
You know who we should get is the Rivian guy. That new electric truck. We should reach out to him. So again, listeners, if you guys have any connections with some of these guys, it'd be great. And one that I spoke with recently, I don't know if you follow him, John. Jamie Jordan. He is a master bead roller.
Yeah.
And reach out to him. He's down to get on. He's absolutely incredible. Really talented, and I've noticed he's starting to do a lot more teaching, bringing guys in and teaching them the art. So, but yeah, anyone listening, let us know if you have any connections to outside of the building industry for great guests. And the survey John's talking about is a Survey Monkey. That link is on our Instagram, _Modern Craftsman. Totally dig your feedback, and then of course, if you're, what do you got?
No, sorry. There's one part of the survey at the back that says suggest a guest in caps.
Okay.
And I just opened it up. There's 20 suggestions right now.
Mm-hmm.
The latest one today at 11:33 was Mike Rowe, which it would be a huge get. And all
right, so I'm working on him.
Yeah, we've reached out pretty deep. I've reached out to a couple other heavy hitters, and it is a hard get for us to make this happen, guys.
It is. I thought I had a really good lead to Mike Rowe. I got, but I didn't get a reply. So
it's the hardest thing. I've reached out to
I got to take him on a better adventure, I think, through my email.
Boys. Yeah. I don't know if adventure is the right word. I think we can find a new one.
Damn.
Journey. Yeah, there's a couple other people want Spencer Lewis back on. Christine from Building Science Fight Club, Select Prime, Manny Sylvia, Architects Companies, White and Company from the Hamptons.
All right.
There's
just a little fun fact for Christine and Spencer. Two of our, they're in our top. I think they're in our top 3. Norm is number 1. Spencer's gonna surpass
all-time
Norm.
downloads.
Yeah. Spencer's about to pass Norm Abrams, guys.
It's crazy, right?
Wild.
I think it's because I wasn't on that podcast.
I think so.
Jason Black. I thought we were gonna get on Studio McGee.
Yeah, and then Brad pulled the rug out.
Carpenter 1 is another suggestion. So, Perkins Brothers, they're big on YouTube.
Okay.
They honestly keep the Justin Fink for second episode.
All right.
Besides Humphrey Munson, Ted Benson.
He's down. He wants us to come to the shop though. But
done. Let's do it.
Yeah. So he's down.
We'll get tested. How's that?
Okay.
Let's do that. And then the first one is a test. I wonder who sent that one. I don't know who that is.
John Horan. All right, guys.
Honestly, the feedback's great.
Yeah, you know where to find us. We will see you guys.
No reviews?
What? Oh, you want to do a review?
Dude.
Listen, I just like to tease people.
Hey, I've been looking on iHeart, and I've been looking on since everyone's jumped over to
Spotify
because of Joe Rogan. I
thought it was because of our deal.
Yeah.
It wasn't because of our deal.
But we got to get. I don't know. I couldn't find reviews on Spotify for us. Maybe it's because there aren't any.
Well, I think we got one.
I didn't even look.
I can't remember if I read this last week, but either way, fun and inspirational. Every Monday I listen to a new podcast, and I get addicted and go back and start listening to the previous podcast. 20-year-old, just graduated college, working as an assistant PM building multifamily townhomes, and I want to leave. The more I listen to this podcast, the more I want to leave my job and become a true craftsman. I would love to get into framing and trim carpentry, but I'm having trouble finding an authentic carpenter who is passionate about their work and wants to teach. Any tips on finding someone I can trust and learn from? Thanks, guys, for the inspiration and always keeping it genuine. I wish you all the best. From Brent.
What do you think? Hashtags? And then stamp?
Yeah, I mean,
find somebody?
You just got to find find the best, the best houses in your area and find out who's framing them.
Yeah, true. Beyond social media, just
talk
drive a different way home.
Find the nicest house in the neighborhood and find out who built it and who framed it.
And then put a tape measure on your hip and then just go walk it.
Yeah. Make sure it's over 25 feet. Don't do a 16-footer.
I walked Steve Carell's build the other day. I drove down the property. It wasn't chained off. I was like, I can get away with anything. I had a tape measure on.
Nice
waiting to get arrested.
Oh, man. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next week. And as always, this podcast is damn it.
What?
Doug, just cut that out. Well, we don't like to say sponsored.
I know. I don't like it.
All right. All right, guys. We will see you next week. And this podcast is... What did we? No.
Brought to you by...
Sorry. See you guys next week. Maybe we should just leave all this. Yeah, just leave it.
Yeah, do it.
All right. Podcast is brought to you by Duration Moulding and Millwork. When it comes to beveled siding, Duration checks all the boxes. It remains exceptionally stable, won't rot or decay, doesn't require clearance or grade, deck surfaces, or even roofs. Doesn't need back or edge priming. Let me reread that because I think I said that wrong. Doesn't require clearance to grade, deck surfaces, or even roofs. Cuts, sands, fills, and repairs easily. Can be painted any color with regular latex paints. Comes in all 16-foot lengths for fewer joints. And is environmentally friendly with cradle-to-cradle certification. Bottom line, Duration is easy to work with, installs and finishes quickly, and looks just like wood. More information, please visit their website, durationmillwork.com.